Hello and welcome to unMadeGaming, guys. It is Wednesday, and that means a return to the dark city of Doskvol in Blades in the Dark, 6 and 20, the Shroud. Albeit the best of three crews here in the 6 and 20 universe, at least in my opinion. And with me here today is the remainder of my crew, and what calls himself everything else. So we'll start with everything else. Johnny, welcome back. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm curious as to what's going to happen tonight. I'm interested to see how certain parties in this game react to certain bits of information that are finally going to get revealed. And I'm really curious how you respond to an unexpected circumstance I'm going to throw at you.
Not well.
So I've got lots of plans tonight. I'm in a good space. How about you?
Sweet. I'm pretty good. Back from TwitchCon, tired, sleepy, back to playing some D&D. But who are you? What are you doing here? And where can people find you on the internet?
Am I plugging myself right now? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
My name is Johnny. I'm run the Video Store Cowboy channel. I'm also the GM for 6 and 20. You're here for 6 and 20. You're over at Speedy's channel tomorrow nights for 6 and 20. My channel on Tuesday nights. And yeah, that's where you can find me, the Video Store Cowboy.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you don't have a character to talk about, so I figured you could talk about you. No one cares about all your characters. God.
Well. So let's see. Wait a minute. Maybe I'm Tobias Keel. No. I was Tobias Keel last night. I was Martin Goal last night. No. I was Rosalind the Demesis. I'm everything else, man. It's all good.
People only care about us. Speaking of, Mr. Ninja, who are you? What are you doing here? And who are you playing tonight?
I'm Xmas Ginger Ninja. I do a lot of video games. I play a lot of games over on Hello Sweetie, this channel. I'm going to be playing OC again, and last week things were pretty fucking intense for an extended period of time, so I promise tonight is not the OC show again, but who knows, maybe we'll kill more people. We'll find out this week.
Yeah, last episode was definitely not an OC show. We killed so many people. It was everyone but Bowerstone show.
You only killed one person.
I killed like 7 people.
Pushed a woman. That's
you did push a woman. You did, which is the most combat you've done in 2 seasons. You pushed a woman, and one time you grabbed a man.
Hell yeah. Better watch out.
At least he didn't fumble.
Yeah, speaking of your ability to push women and grab men, who are you? What are you doing here? And who are you playing tonight, Slade?
So I'm playing Reymond, the puppeteer, or the puppet, which way you look at it. Yeah, of the group. And I'm looking forward to seeing what more happens with the way that Doskvol seems to be evolving. It's just a pleasure to be back. Missed you guys.
Yeah, I would like to say it's a pleasure to have you back, but Greg, who are you? What are you doing here? And who are you playing today?
Man goes to TwitchCon, becomes an asshole.
It's been like that for years.
I was going to say, TwitchCon did not do that. Greg, Grimjack21502 on Twitch and Twitter. I am happy to be back inside the borders of Doskvol, playing my man, the God Steam. The OC show last week or 2 weeks ago, I would gladly pay another admittance ticket to go in and see that show again. It was fun as hell. And as for Bowerstone, this is not me blowing smoke up Slade's ass. I'm going to tell you, we got a Bowerstone episode coming. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. Maybe it's tonight. Let's see.
It's the season finale again. Like, the whole season finale of season 1 was Bowerstone, and the season finale of 2 was also Bowerstone. He gets the opener and the ending, and then they both blow
Let's write
up.
Another speech further in advance this time, though.
Yeah. So, guys, that's us. I'll be playing everyone's lovable favorite spider. Favorite spider, for sure. Of the 2 of us, I think I'm the favorite. And we're going to get into some business tonight. We chopped up some bodies, we met a general, we have an election to win, and a city to rule. So that's going to be pretty great. Before we jump into things, I'll remind you guys the ways you can interact with the show. You can hit those retweets, those subscribers, those follows, and if you guys want to donate to the show, you can donate for all kinds of Nat 1s, Nat 20s, all kinds of cool stuff in there as well. And without further ado, Johnny, what are we doing in the city of Doskvol?
Well, so 2 weeks ago, just as a reminder, you guys had this wonderful little meeting at the Eruvian sword fighting school, where it was an arranged conversation with the leadership of the Red Sashes, to which you subsequently brutally beat the leader when she challenged you and her cohorts involved, and subsequently was about to get into a huge brawling fight when an Eruvian general from the Eruvian consulate in Doskvol interrupted, acknowledged OC's ability as a master swordswoman for the Eruvian fighting style, and arranged to have a conversation. Subsequently, you were walking out, and there was something. I can't remember. There was something that happened. There was one last little bit. Greg, do you remember? Because I can remember it had to do with Steam. What was it specifically?
The last little bit?
Yeah, there was some last little bit involving Steam. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I know the people came for because the bells rang.
Right. So the spirit wardens came, and then Nix was asking about the mask, but I thought there was something else. Okay, my mistake.
I got a cool sword.
You did get a cool sword because the general honored OC when he recognized her ability after the description that was given to him. So, moving forward, that was the end of the score. I believe we did payoff, but we didn't do, and we did heat. But I think we're building towards downtime actions. Does that sound about right to everybody? Okay, so let's just go ahead and jump straight to downtime actions. Who would like to go first?
Man, we discussed what we're going to do today, but not downtime actions.
I'll go first.
There we go. Miss Ginger Ninja.
I'll go first. First of all, I got a lot of stress. I remember we had spoken, and then we haven't spoken since then, like we were going to, because I'm an asshole. I'm switching my... Fair enough. I'm switching my vice. So...
Right. You're evolving, yeah.
Yeah, so... I'm evolving. Into a god!
Is that like a Pokemon thing?
Yes.
So are the Tagakurusi gods Pokemon?
The Forgotten Gods are the first generation evolution of Pokemon.
All right, so what are you're evolving to what? Training?
Violence.
Violence
For the foreseeable future until, if something changes.
Okay. And so what does that, what does that look like from the narrative for OC? Is it just straight up fighting to fight for fight's sake? Is it training? What is it?
It's physical stress relief. What she was doing before was physical stress relief, but it was of a different nature. And now whenever when she goes and trains with steam, it helps her blow off steam. That's all I got.
That can be taken in so many contexts.
No, just one.
It's actually not what I meant.
All right, so
can I just do that real quick?
You sure can, but I'd like you to tell me. So in the past, you've described the way that you took pleasure to relieve your stress. Now I want you to talk specifically about training and violence as it applies to this evolution of you relieving stress. Go ahead and indulge, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I had 6.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, so this is actually a really good, kind of narrative setup, because by relieving 6 stress, it acknowledges the transition and the transformation that you're going through. What does that look like?
I think it would look a lot like a mix of the first time we trained together, where it was not going easy on me, but kind of getting a feel for like pacing, and it got really intense as far as if I dropped my weapon, I was still going after fighting. It was just everything we've been going through, like fighting all those different groups and everything. It's my stress is always as high as it can go when I go to relieve stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the fighting last week, it would look a lot like that, but obviously not going for blood, but that intensity.
Okay.
Now that I defeat another master, I'm like, well, fuck this. I can take on anybody is probably her mindset right now.
Feeling incredibly empowered and almost a little cocky, right?
Maybe not cocky. Yeah, maybe not cocky, but maybe like more sure of herself than she has been in a while since she lost an eye.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, cool. So that's your first downtime action. What do you want to do for your second?
It depends. Am I getting information?
Sure. So the circumstances that you're referring to is you did some research previously during the previous downtime action, and you had received some information in regards to the investigation of what's going on with Nye. You get 2 pieces of information independently from your rooks, and they provide you with the following. The first is that there was this weird transaction that occurred with a girl who was supposedly possessed, being held and then passed through Crowsfoot to Brightstone, and the broker of this deal was Martin Gull. So that sounds very suspicious to your rooks based on what you described to them, and that seemed like a good bit of information about what you were looking into. The second is that there has been some unusual activity from the Dimmer sisters' home. The mansion was paid a visit by a new group that had no previous dealings with them. And the way that you found this out is actually from the same location, the Leaky Bucket. A conversation was overheard about delivering information about a girl to the Dimmer sisters.
Okay. I'm not taking notes. You are. Okay. I want to get the
right. So, with that lovely
That's
bits
not
of
true.
information that you got from your previous downtime activity, what would you like to do now?
Can I go? Can I come back to it?
You are more than welcome to. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Since OC is going to spend a little bit of time thinking about her second downtime action, who would like to go next?
Yeah, I can go. What we discussed about before, Johnny, Steam is going to do 2 things for his downtime actions. The first is he would like to further progress the barge, his church, to full status. I think we have a clock started. I don't know exactly how far along we are in it, but
that's not your clocks. Those are your clocks. I don't know. Let's look. Demonic Bars. The next time that you commit activity here, you are done.
let's go ahead and finish off my barge, man.
All right. Oh yeah, you're right. Probably a good idea, huh? I'm terrible about that. Hey, hashtag ProGM. That's fine. Yeah, you're right. All right. Here we go. Now, Demonic Barge is complete. Now, just as a refresher, do you want to describe a little bit about the barge and then what the ultimate completion of that actually is?
The barge is now officially not seaworthy, but canal worthy, as all of the advancements to just the actual structural integrity of the barge have been completed. But predominantly the top level of the barge, or what would be the level that you would walk into after coming off a gangplank from the dock, is the church itself. And inside, available only to Tycherosi eyes, anybody can see the pedestals. There are 8 pedestals aligned. But if you are a Tycherosi, you can see above each pedestal on the side of the barge interior wall a depiction of, as of right now, 3 specific characters: Steam, Sling, and OC. And written in Tycherosi in various places, almost, I don't know, some might say crazy, a god must be strong, a god must rise above. Everywhere in Tycherosi, written in the special ink that we have, available only for Tycherosis, provided by my sister. And
that you can get here for $9.95.
Yes, you can find that in the Unmade Gaming store. Pick it up with your shirt.
Exclamation point merch. You can find it right next to the 6 and 20 shirt.
Right.
So, I have a question for you before you describe the completion of this. you added a new wrinkle in that description, and I'm curious how that works. And I'm not suggesting that it doesn't work. I just want to know how narratively you came to that point. What is it about Tycherosi that they're the only ones able to see it? Because previously you had talked about working in the ghost field to create those effigies, those visions of.
Correct. I should clarify that anybody in the ghost field can't see it unless you're Tycherosi. How's that sound? Because I forgot to add that little bit about having to actually attune as a Tycherosi to see what's in there. But yes, that's the missing step that I glossed over.
No, that's totally fine. I could even see an argument where you did something using Tycherosi blood, because there is a distinct difference between Tycherosi and everybody else because of the partially demonic background. But something about that infused in some way that you've designed something inside of the barge that might provide, without the ghost field attunement, the ability to see it to some degree.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
It's entirely up to you. I'm just making that suggestion.
Right. It was originally designed for a way for Steam and Sling to communicate in the city without anybody else seeing it.
Right.
But yeah, we could.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. So what is the final step then? It's now seaworthy. You've got these three, essentially, representations. What is the finishing step?
The finishing step is Steam's ascension, or the beginning of it.
Okay. And so describe that.
As soon as he completes everything to as far as it can be completed in this frame in time, Steam strips completely naked, gets in the middle of the deck, in the middle of the church, and sits down cross-legged and folds his hands, cups them in among himself. And as he does, the ghost of his mother, who perished and was not taken by the spirit wardens, his foster mother, comes up into the ghost field, into the top level of the ship, and she says to him, "Are you ready, boy?" And Steam's only response is, "A god must be strong." And at this point, because of the way that his cult was killed when he was little, several of the members never found electroplasm. Several of the members remained as wandering spirits, and they begin to bleed in through the walls of the barge until they are surrounding him. And as he is standing there for a brief moment, Steam knows fear as they shoot and pierce through his body, and he screams, and every fiber and every muscle in his entire frame fires and twitches and jerks as he leaps to his feet, and then we cut away.
Okay. And so that's your first downtime action.
And my second. I train in playbook.
Okay. And what does that mean?
I have trained in playbook and received a new veteran advancement.
Okay. Do you want to talk anything about that, or do you just want to leave that until the time is appropriate where it's...
We'll just sprinkle that in, and then we'll pop in whenever we need to.
Excellent. Okay. So that sounds like two downtime actions there. One is the completion of a long-term project, and two is the training for a veteran ability. Excellent. Now, do you want to take another downtime action via coin or rep?
How is our heat, guys?
We need help.
She's starting to get smoky. Yeah.
Do you guys need me to do it, or?
Three
Okay.
people? Okay.
You do you, boo.
I am done, Johnny.
All right. Excellent. So, OC, do you want to come back to you, or do you want me to go to... Okay, let's
Real
go
quick.
with you then. Okay.
I am going to start a clock to track goal. I specifically am sending my Rook network, and I guess both of our Rook networks, who would be there anyway or be in the area normally, and kind of be able to blend the people who heard these things.
Okay.
I want them to track him and see where else he goes. And ultimately, I'm looking for a place that we can have a conversation with him that's not in his bar. somewhere we can catch him off guard that he goes, or any relevant information.
And you want to make it a long-term project?
I mean,
I'm wondering
they're
if
already
it's
there, so I could also ask, have you seen him go anywhere? Have you whatever? Like, I'm assuming it's going to be the next day or two that we would want to act on it.
You could
So
use
the reason
an asset being the location.
Well, so yeah, if you want to make it a downtime action, then it can be an asset, and that would be information, right?
Yeah.
You could also just use the cohorts in free play and do that research, and then it doesn't have to actually occupy a downtime action, and then you could just move that. If the information becomes favorable, then all of a sudden that becomes a score for you in and of itself, right? So that it's up to you whether you want to use it as an asset to get to acquire an asset for that, or you want to do it as a free play and then have it be the role of it there. It's entirely up to you. But those are the two options that I see on the table, because it almost doesn't make sense to me, because it would be very obvious in a lot of ways, because you guys are spending so much time in Crowsfoot at this point that your rooks would be incredibly familiar with the circumstances, and
especially
the answers
since it's
would
one of the only places to go.
Right. So the answer would be a lot more obvious, especially given that martial law is still technically in place right now.
Okay. What can I do to reduce heat, guys? Anything?
Sure.
I want to help. What do I do?
However you think you can reduce heat. We are at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're at 7.
Oh, that's no problem. Your wanted levels, it's only 1.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm not super worried about it.
Hush everything else.
All right, so you want to reduce heat. How do you want to reduce heat?
Can I use his contact in the red sashes to sort of put in like the idea that it was the leadership's fault that this happened, that we had a chance for peace and they fucked it up? Is that something we want to do, Mike? You think?
I am
not listening. Yep. Your person that's in the red sashes passes around the idea that maybe it was the leadership's fault and they should have taken our deal, and that we were just there to help and that they instigated it. That type of like thought process, maybe start pushing that around the red sashes, so when we do go to meet with this guy, not everyone there hates us, and maybe reduce some stress.
Will that work, Johnny?
Yeah, and it's not actually that far from the truth. Let's be honest.
Okay.
Right?
I didn't start it.
They kind of picked the fight. I know they kind of picked the fight, right?
Yeah.
So
I was like, listen, we could hug it out, and they had a knife in their hand.
Okay.
Well, it's all relative at this point because she's dead, so
It's
it doesn't
fine,
matter.
I have her sword now.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and what do
I roll for that?
I think you would roll his tier because he's a cohort at this point, right? He's an expert.
I can roll him for you.
Okay.
Well,
please.
if you're rolling for using the asset, or sorry, the cohort,
It's
then
his.
it's a tier roll. So. Either way, I mean, however you want to roll it, it's all good.
No bonus die.
That depends. Do you want to? Do you want to make an argument for it? Because it doesn't seem like this is the kind of thing where devil's bargain or stress is going to, or pushing yourself makes sense.
I think the fact that we got in and out of there alive, and they now don't have leadership, they're looking for someone to follow. Maybe also the fact that they saw that we didn't start it. Like, it's the truth. It's not like we're trying to lie to these people. They were there and saw it, and we're just like, we killed them.
You're just trying to spread the honest truth.
Yes. We don't want people putting shit in their minds before we can get to them and talk to them and whatever's going to come out of this, ultimately, before our meeting.
I agree. That definitely deserves an additional die right there.
Alrighty.
So, roll it.
5.
Okay. So, that reduces the heat by 2 or 3? Let me double check. Because it's one of those days where I'm forgetting things. It is. You reduce it by 2. So now the rumors are being squashed a little bit as red sashes who were at the fight, who are involved but not directly in any type of leadership position begin to acknowledge that their leader was reckless and that their leadership was more than a little reckless at the meeting. So there is a bit of acknowledgement that you necessarily weren't responsible for starting the fight.
Okay.
Cool. Excellent. So that's second downtime action. Would you like to... You don't want to take... Okay. All right. Excellent.
I just got rid of that stress.
Okay. Nix or Bowerstone? Who would like to go next?
Bowerstone, what do you got?
Yeah, so I had plans, but those plans changed when I looked at my character sheet. I need to heal.
What's your harm level at, buddy?
1. I haven't finished that progress clock yet, and I've been doing 2 missions with a wound.
Well, so that's a negative in position, right? So
shit's getting infected.
Your girlfriend a little too rough at the Red Sashes party?
Oh, ouch. Ouch. That was brutal. That was cold. That was cold.
Her.
That bitch had to do.
That was the other bitch. No, that was the other one.
All right, guys.
Was that Wednesday or Thursday?
That was Wednesday.
Uh,
All right. So, how are you going to heal this? Are you going to find a physiker
yes.
to continue? Okay. I believe it's a fortune roll, right? Is that what it is?
It's a healing.
Oh, no.
You should be able
There's
to
an actual healing input.
Just go ahead and hit the healing clock, or hit the treatment on the healing clock.
Hey.
Look at that. And you are probably healed, right?
I got new legs.
Excellent.
Love it.
So you lost your level 1 harm.
Sweet.
Well, it would
All
be
right, so
so the 4 would be, or the 6 would be taking a. Does the 6 close up an entire 4-person clock or a 4-quarter clock?
I thought he had 2. He had lost 2
I had
positions.
2. Yeah. So I had 2.
Yeah. So so if you look at the way it's written, 0 dice. He takes the lowest of the 2 rolls. So even with the 4, that's still 2,
Okay.
right?
I wasn't sure what the numbers.
Yeah. So 4. It's the same basic mechanic, right? It's 1 to 3 would be 1, 4, 5 would be 2, and then 6 would be 3. And then, of course, a crit would be 5. So, I mean, he would be completely healed with a crit. So, yeah, good job. And with that, that's your first downtime action. Would you like to do your second?
Do we still want to reduce some heat?
Yeah.
Yeah, reduce some heat.
All right. Now, how are you going to reduce the heat?
So after a certain meeting that was held, as he left, he's going to be mingling with the public as he's making his way back home in his carriage. So you know how sometimes I've seen it on your TV shows, you got your politicians in their car, they'll go by and they'll start waving to the crowds and things like that. And
what do you mean by your?
I mean the American politicians. You wouldn't do that down the streets in New Zealand.
Are you saying new people?
Yes.
This is a lot like the conversation we had before.
That's why I was asking. All right. Okay. So you're going to mingle, and you're doing this coming from the meeting with the Red Sashes at the
No.
The other meeting.
The other meeting. Okay. All right.
So I got me boy in the wagon with me.
Okay.
I hope.
Did you just call Steam your boy?
My boy.
I thought you said meat boy.
Wow.
That's
First
gonna end.
people, and now your boy. Wow, this is getting a little bit uncomfortable.
Is it because he's Taika Rossi? It's fucked up.
He's gonna call
What
me.
do you mean by
strange
you
next.
people? OC just pops out of nowhere.
Okay, so before you get into too much more,
It's just a part, guys. I swear.
what do you use? What type of action are you using to commit this be a man of the people kind of moment?
It's definitely a sway. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So with your man of the people moment and your swaying, given how positive that meeting worked out, at least in my mind, for you, and how less than positive it was for them, I'm going to say that you get a bonus die for
Oh,
this.
sweet.
Because you walked out on top in that particular meeting. So take that bonus die and go ahead and roll it. Oh shit! So that's three less heat for you.
Lovely.
Reymond Bowerstone, man of the people. Even the Skovlins are beginning to like him. I think Jinx is going to have something to say about that, though.
Man of the people, not a man of the cast.
All right, so that is your second downtime action, sir. Would you like to take a third for any reason?
No, I think we'll be good there to carry on.
All right. So your heat has been reduced by 5 so far, and we go to Nyx, who has 3 downtime actions by default.
Yeah, I'm gonna heal.
That's probably a good thing.
And do 1 pip. Because I still have a gunshot wound from like 7 episodes ago.
Yes, you do.
Oh god, how does this work?
And it's kind of festering now, just so you know.
I mean, I bandaged it, you know. I put Neosporin on it. And I'm going to train in Playbook.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what that looks like. Because most of my Playbook stuff is talking to people. I guess talking to people. So, do the homeless people, Needle, or Harris Stillman have any information for me?
Do they have any information for you?
Yeah, just general news about town.
Okay, so there was a couple things I was going to share during free play, but I guess the Rooks would come in and give you a couple of bits of information. There was a bit of commotion around the Tobias Keel estate, or the Keel estate.
Mm-hmm.
Some unusual activity that was kind of noted by the Bluecoats in that area. So the homeless also picked up on that. Sky and Ari were noted in Charter Hall recently, meeting with a city official of some kind. And there has been an increased amount of activity in Barrowcleft with regards to essentially the minions of the tall willowy woman and the red dwarf. They have been seen in the marketplace every single morning.
In Barrowcleft?
In Barrowcleft.
Remind me of the tall willowy woman?
She was the one that Sky ran into. Actually, you wouldn't have any reference to that. That's right.
Yeah.
So only the red dwarf and the soldiers that you saw would be there.
Okay.
Right. So those particular individuals, those foot soldiers, essentially, are being spotted, more frequently in Barrowcleft right now.
Okay. Market every morning. Cool. Neat. I assume Needle doesn't have any new information. We were just there. And nothing big enough has happened to affect the army.
Nothing has. So Needle doesn't work for the army; he works for the Red Sashes. He doesn't work for the Eruvian Consulate.
Harris Stillman works for the.
Right, but so you asked me about Needle. So what Needle would know is that the Sashes are in complete disarray right now.
Yep. And
that individual. Ranked members, so for example him and other people essentially in the middle management or the middle tier of command structure are being given more and more responsibility to keep their groups in line while they figure out what the hell that they're going to do. But it sounds like there's absolute chaos in the Red Sashes right now.
Okay. Red Sash Needle. Utter chaos. Sweet. That's what I prefer. I prefer utter chaos. Sometimes I prefer utter chaos.
Utter chaos, yeah.
That's it. Anything from the actual military?
So in the actual military, the Imperial Army, yes, word has come down that martial law and the strict lockdown of Crowsfoot is about to be lifted. And it's expected relatively shortly. There is no affirmed date yet.
Soon, trademark is to be lifted soon. Okay, cool. Neat. those are things that are useful at some point in the day. So I've trained once. I've trained a second time, or I've trained once. I've healed myself once. Guys, is there anything we need to do? You can think of? All of my books are in the lair, which is in a different part of the city, and we're in martial lockdown.
Are all three books together now? Because I remember Bowerstone.
Two of the three books are together.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah. If I wanted to, would it be a downtime clock? If I wanted to make a series of ghost contracts, rapid fire.
Bloody hell, okay.
What kind of ghost contracts specifically?
So mechanically, we leveled up and got another cohort.
Yep.
I intend to bind them all.
Can I ask what the ultimate reason behind that is?
So that if they disobey the Shroud, they die, pretty much.
Okay. Can I ask what makes you think that they're going to do that?
Because they're going to be close to Bowerstone at all times. So he's our important player. So just in case anyone tries to get to Bowerstone, and tries to pose as one of them, things like we've done, like hidden spies inside ranks of people.
We've also been killing a lot more people lately.
Or Devil's Bargain Assassins. They seem to be.
And we're wanted now.
I mean, as a person who literally has a spy in several networks and scattered throughout the entire city, I'm a little paranoid of spies.
Absolutely. Okay. How many? You have 3 cohorts right now, right?
This is yes, but this is just the one. This is just the Stonecloaks, which is our new cohort of thugs.
Right, but you guys actually haven't made the deal to acquire them in the way that you want to yet.
Right. So that's what I'm asking. So mechanically, that's what we have. Would that be? Can I start a downtime clock to write up the contract and make sure everything's T's are crossed and I's are dotted and that, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, given the quality of the people that you would be bringing into the Stonecloaks, do you think that they would read a contract, or would they be handshake kind of guys?
They'd be handshake kind of guys. But I would have to say the hand. I would have to say the contract. You have to agree to something.
Sure. I don't know. I think that would almost be. I mean, even if you were to do some pre-planning and writing of it, I still think that's almost too much for a long-term project.
Okay.
It's almost like maybe it's. I don't even think you would need an asset at that point. It just seems like something narratively that you would do automatically.
Okay.
Right. So, works. I mean, if you're looking for reasons to spend for a downtime action, for a long-term project or something like that. I mean, there are a couple of different things that I can think of off the top of my head, but I mean, it seems like that particular one does not stand out to me as something that Nyx wouldn't already be thinking about explicitly.
Fair. And
then preparing for.
Fair enough. In which case, I am going to start I don't know how to start it, though. So I want to start a project clock to research this knife. So I don't actually know what it does.
Did you actually watch the last episode of Phantom, or did you catch any part of that when we talked about the knife?
Nope.
Awesome. This is so good. I'm so happy that that's the case. Because, yeah. All right. Good. So I think that you would consult a whisper, or you would think to consult somebody with occult knowledge. Steam might be somebody tangentially related to it, but it almost occurs to you that you might want to go pay a visit to OC's friend Nicholas Penderin.
Okay.
Or Penderin's father, who you made a contact with. Or somebody else at Charter Hall University.
Okay. Sure.
Or even maybe you find yourself a street whisperer. So you have any number of those options, right? And let me look at something else while you decide which one that's going to be. Because
so we can't. I mean, we can relatively easily go in and out of the city, right? Because I think Steam went to his boat. We can get in and out of Crowsfoot, right?
Yes, you do have relationships where that's possible. Yes.
Okay. I think that Nix would lean on. Excuse me. I think he would lean on the fact that that Lord Pendrin likes certain stuff. He likes the arcane. He likes the spiritual, demonic things, and he has no desire for politics. So I think he would kind of use that as his in to discuss politics. Oh, can you help me with this strange blade I found? Yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna go talk to Lord Pendrin.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. All right. So are you just going to basically use the calling card that he gave you and start that conversation?
Yes.
Okay. So based on the progress clock that's actually sort of related to this on the Phantom side, this is going to be a 6-segment clock.
Okay.
And there is plenty of information that you're going to get provided with even on the first try.
Okay,
right.
cool.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how much this actually works. So when calling on Lord Pendrin, how are you going to approach this? Is this a casual conversation? Are you basically consorting with him? Or are you attempting to? I mean, what is the
persuade him? I think I would be consorting with him, based on the fact that I spoke with him previously, and he seems like he has a very eclectic personality, and the rest of the council kind of shuns him. And when I spoke to him, he said he had no interest in politics. This seems like something that would intrigue him, and I think Nix would be able to pick up on that. Like, this is unique, and as a person who is a learned man who studies, different arcane things. Seeing something new in the arcane world would entice him to discover more. So I think he would use his eclectic excitement for the odd, the occult, in his favor. But yeah, this would definitely be a consort. This would not be. I'm not trying to persuade him to do anything. I'm just saying, hey, I found this thing. I've been using it. Here's what I've done. No, not that part. I found this thing. I've been using it. What does it do?
Okay. All right. So why don't you go ahead and roll that, and then we'll narrate the results of it.
Okay. Is that a fortune, or is that... What is that?
So if you're consorting with him, unless you think there's a better reason why a fortune roll makes sense,
nope.
And we can go. I mean, I'm happy to go through and do the whole building of a pool there. But if you've got consorts and you think that you can do reasonably well with consort, then I think that's great.
Okay.
And that's a great way to start.
Yep.
You are going to get 1 bonus die for the calling card.
Okay. So I'll say 1 bonus die for the calling card. Since I'm assisting I'm not just giving him this thing and saying, hey, what is this? The fact that I've been using it, was told to use it by a demon and can attune to and with it. Does that give me another bonus die?
Oh.
Because the knife is what I use to get into the ghost field.
So it's now a core part of you.
Yeah, so now I am uniquely associated with this dagger.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and say that definitely makes sense for a second.
All right, cool. Let's see what happens here. What does a 6 do? Is that a 6? Is that good?
Is it just a 6? Hold on, I was on the wrong screen. Oh, okay. So it is just a 6. Yeah. Okay, so that's 3 pieces of the puzzle, or the segments. 3 segments.
Yeah.
So that's half.
Yeah,
which is a really good roll.
Nix is going to spend a coin and do that again. So I'm going to just knock that right out of the park real quick. I assume
bonus dice do not apply. They were applied once. They're not going to apply again. So
a 3.
So all right. Do you want to spend another coin and do it one more time?
Does that fill the clock?
No.
Yeah, 1 more coin.
Because it's so remember, it's 1 through 3 is
in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yep, man. I'm spending a coin, and that's 1 more.
Do it.
I mean, any roll I roll fills 1 clock.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't it?
1 through 3 is only 1 segment.
Yeah, I filled 4 and then 1. That's 5. So any roll.
No, you filled 3.
A 6 is 3.
A 6 is only 3.
Oh, I thought a 6 was 4.
Nope.
Come on! 5.
Fucking RNG gods. Yeah, yes. Okay. I'm glad that you did this.
Me too.
I get to reveal some really cool stuff now.
Neat.
So,
settle in for some exposition, boys.
Wow. All right. This is going to be really, really good. First question I have for you, though, because I want you to kind of establish the setting a little bit. When you come to him, how do you approach this? You've got the calling card. But the conversation that you had was very brief, and you found him incredibly eclectic, and he was ticky and sort of eccentric. How does that affect you walking into this conversation? Are you dressed differently? Do you bring a gift? Do you bring something to the table on top of just the knife in the conversation, or is it just the conversation?
No. Nick's always dresses up for an occasion. So he is in probably similar to what he wore to the opera house.
Okay.
Because this guy seems like he's lucid and forgetful. So he wants to look like he did when he met him. So he kind of just rings a bell. But he would approach him and not discuss his son at all, because the guy didn't seem super concerned with his son. And he would approach him from a standpoint of, I have something that we can work together on. Having seen what you can do at the opera house, I have an opportunity for you. And then present the dagger.
Okay. And so
like he approaches in the air of, I'm doing you a favor.
Okay. So when you call on him, the calling card actually is something at a location called the Archive of Echoes. The Archive of Echoes is... I'm really excited about this, actually. The Archive of Echoes is a imperial sanctioned organization. They tend to work in things that are ancient and occult, and sometimes date pre-cataclysm. This is interesting because at the end of the day, it's the kind of thing that most people don't ever get to see. So the Archive of Echoes is at Charter Hall University. And so when you arrive there, there is the normal school day that's going on right now, right? There is just a ton of things. There is just a ton of school activity. There's the hustle and bustle, and you see people going in and out. But when you approach the Archive of Echoes, it's one of those off to the corner kind of places, and it seems like a small nondescript building on the surface. And I mean literally on the surface, because when you walk in, it's basically an entryway and a greeting room with a stone stairway that leads down. And that stone stairway appears incredibly old, almost as old as the stairway that you found in the Lost District. So in going down, you are led by an attendant of the archive, as they apologize for Lord Penderen's state. He is a little uncomfortable to be around right now because he's feverish in research and has been up for 3 days and has been taking some, narcotic that allows him to, kind of stay lucid and yet, stay awake. Stay awake and stay lucid, but also stay, in this kind of fevered state. And so when you find him, he is literally just sitting at a desk in the middle of this sort of library setting of, series of packed books. It's cold down here. It's always cold in Doskvol. It's always wet. Down here, it is dry and extremely cold. And when you think back about the amount of steps that you climbed, you're down probably a good 60 or 70 steps. So you're pretty deep into the earth here. And there are very few lamps lighting the area around. And so when you enter coming to that bottom and coming into the library proper, you can see row after row of shelved books just going off in both left and right directions as you were led into the center. And there's this sort of circular space where there's a series of desks. And Lord Pendrin is just kind of feverishly scribbling and whispering to himself. You know, he's just mumbling, and he's got an interesting apparatus. It's a writing utensil or a writing tool that doesn't require dipping into an inkwell.
Enjoy your
It is very modern. You've seen some, you know, high-end noble families have had this. And so he's kind of scribbling in this big, you know, notebook, this big bound notebook that he has, and he's consulting papers. And when the person taps him on the shoulder, he just, what do you, no, I'm not seeing anybody. And then the person presents the calling card. Oh. And he just kind of looks back at you, and he's twitching as he's doing this. And he says, all right, just seat him over there up a minute. And he puts it down, and he continues to scribble. The person takes you over to another desk, sits you there, and apologizes again for his state, and says, I will be back when he rings for me to lead you out. If you get lost, we will find you eventually. And that person begins to move out of the room. As you can see that Lord Pendrin is beginning to scribble again and take these final notes that he's finishing a thought. As you look on the table, you see on the desk that you're looking at, there are various notes and books dating hundreds of years back. Drawings of various items of alien design to you. Just weird, interesting scribbles of sketches of just these apparatuses. And when you finally, you know, you really kind of focus in on one of them, you're kind of staring in at detail, you realize that one of them is actually a design for a very ancient, lurking, sort of hulking hull designed for war. And there are all of these various strange scribbles in a language that you don't recognize. And the parchment is just incredibly old. It's not, you can't get a firm date, but it's very yellowed and kind of, you know, very dry to the touch. And as you're just kind of absorbing this, you hear, what? No, that's not right. It is nice to see you again. And you see that he is forcing the words to come out smoothly, and he's trying to look at you, and he's unable to kind of focus at you, but he's trying really hard. And he says, It is interesting that you call now. I'm incredibly busy. Stop. How may I be of service?
Is he looking at Nyx?
Yeah, he's trying to look at Nyx, but his eyes are focusing in on you, trying to focus in on you, but they keep dancing around. And every time he speaks in like a hushed sort of, he's whispering off to his right shoulder.
So when he finally like focuses on Nyx, Nyx has a small like a notepad out, and in his other hand is the pen from Lady Rowan that he's just absentmindedly flicking between his fingers. And he gets up from his seat and goes and sits at the table. I assume it's like the opposite side of the table. Grabs a chair and spins it around, and sits down next to Lord Pendrin. And he says, I have a preposition for you. It appears as though you like, far more than I expected, the occult and things of an ancient bent. What if I told you that I received a dagger from a demon?
At that, he's just kind of almost like a frightened animal for a second. Just, shh. And he tries incredibly hard to get control of these tics that he's having, these responses. Demon, you say?
I did.
What demon?
I didn't get his name, right, Johnny?
You did not.
Okay.
But you could describe him, especially with the Valen Geist, and he might know him.
Yeah. So I don't know what Valen looks like, but I would describe what Valen looks like in the state before I beat the shit out of him.
So Lisa had actually chosen a picture of Brad Pitt from Interview with a Vampire, and I thought that was actually a really appropriate look.
Okay.
Because when Louis is in New Orleans, whatever, and he's acting as a that sort of a plantation owner aristocrat, that's very much the idea that I had in my head. So you would describe him as looking like that. And as you're describing him, the ticking takes on a different note. I know. Stop. I need to speak. And he gains control again and focuses on you and says, I've met this one many, many times.
Well, yes, he was a professor here.
Professor would be a loose definition of what he did here. So, what he gave you? What did he give you?
And he unsheaths it from his lower back and sort of stabs it into the table. And as he stabs it into the table, I use the dagger to attune to my surroundings.
Okay, so given this is a long-term project and all the coin that you spent on the rolls, the project's complete, there will be no attunement roll for you. You're just going to automatically attune. This is a really controlled circumstance for you, so there's no reason that chance is going to affect it in any way. And so as you begin to focus in, you see so many spirits in this room that it almost frightens you at first. There are an uncountable number as you kind of look around, because as you are tuning and you kind of take in the surroundings, you can actually see how far the archive actually goes. It's massive. It just goes on for a lot farther than you would expect any normal structure, and you realize is that it probably covers at least the underground area of the entire Charter Hall University, if not farther into Charter Hall itself. It is a massive, underground structure. You see at certain points that there are doors that lead off in the distance, and you see that as you're kind of taking in the room, as you're looking at this, opposite to the stairway from which you came in, there is another stairway that leads down very far down another, essentially aisle of books. And the impression that you begin to get is that this is the library of the archive and that there are other rooms associated. And so you notice a couple of very peculiar things particular to Pendrin. One, he has two spirits who are hovering over him. One over his left shoulder and one over his right shoulder. The one over the right shoulder appears to be constantly bickering at him. And as you're attuning, you begin to hear a bit of that conversation. The one over the left shoulder, on the other hand, is very attentive and just kind of listening into the whole thing and looking at you and then looking at Pendrin and looking at you and looking at Pendrin. And when that spirit recognizes that you've attuned, she gives you a smile, a knowing smile, but it's not a frightening kind of a thing. It's almost a reassuring kind of a smile, something that almost motherly, something you haven't seen since before your mother died.
And Nyx nods in acknowledgement of her looking at him, and also to just show Pendrin that he, more or less, because he seems addled, what he's done, and then he like nods to the spirit hovering over him.
So it is a male spirit that is bickering to him on his right side, and it is a constant chatter of questions that the spirit wants to know about you. Like it's a constant. Well, find out more about. There's something really off about this. You need to really kind of find out what's going on here. That knife, it just continues to go on and on and on and on and on. And finally, you see that the spirit on the left reaches over to the spirit on the right, and the chatter stops as Henry stops ticking again, and kind of looks at you and says, Valen gave you that? What?
Among other things.
Why would the demon help? The demon has had that for 200 years. And you can see that the bickering has started again, but the one on the left reaches over to the one on the right, and it calms it again. Enough to give it a moment, give Pendrin a moment to engage you. 200 years. Tell me what you know about this dagger and how you've used it. And I'll tell you, I'll fill in the blanks. The one is behind the right is chattering again.
And he explains, just to save time here, he explains that he is able to use it to force his way into the ghost field. He used it to, or it was used to sever, what was the tracker on Nyx? Does he know what it was? Was it a spiritual tracker? Was it a demonic tracker?
It was a demonic tracker.
Okay. He tells him that it was used to sever a demonic tracker from him, and that it was used to potentially kill a demon named Esther.
At the name of Esther, he perks up. And both the one that's bickering and the one that's standing on the left side and a number of other spirits all stop their activity because they're all going about their business in the library doing different things. Mm-hmm. And they all stop and they look at you. And Pendrin says, Esther made an appearance.
She did.
And you killed her?
Well, I drove the dagger into her. Whether she's dead or not is yet to be seen.
You see pain come across his face, and you see a little bit of shock among the ghosts around you. And he takes a huge breath and lets it out, and as he does, he sighs, and both spirits, left and right, back off. And they kind of fade into the distance as the other spirits just kind of begin to move away. And Pendrin looks at you for the first time, and you see that he is calmer, that his demeanor is very focused. And he looks at you and he says, I wish you had not done that. But what's done is done. Given what you've told me, there is much you still don't know. I'll start with the basics. And he begins to go into this detailed discussion of how the actual dagger is constructed. And this is what you find out. It is the tooth of a leviathan. It is extracted from Leviathan and then carved into the shape using an incredibly special and lost to most known blade makers of this particular technique, because it is not forging, it is carving and shaping and it's this weird sort of process where you're almost like whittling and then heating it up and whittling it and doing all of that. It is a very strong dagger. It will never shatter unless it is in the body of a demon. And if you snap it off into the demon, because you stab it in, and as he describes this, it loses its properties and becomes essentially a mortal instrument to an immortal creature and makes them mortal. You snap it off in the demon, they can be killed. They can be removed from existence. There is no afterlife for demons. They are spirit in flesh. And he says all of these things to you. And then he says, and this particular dagger, this came from the Leviathan. The one that came to Doskvol so long ago. The last time Chaos was here. This was forged from its remains, and there are 3 of them, but the other 2 have been lost. Where Valen got this one, I do not know. And he says, you might want to keep this with you at all times should you have any more dealings with Chaos, since it's clear you're working indirectly or directly for him. Because you didn't actually say that you were actually working for Chaos, right?
Nope, I actually haven't said anything about Chaos at all.
So he jumps to the conclusion, given what you have and haven't told him. And so as he says this, the spirits begin to come back in. And he says, Chaos is not what you think. He is not a demon. He is something else entirely. And this blade will have no effect on him. And as the spirits begin to chatter again, he says, you will need help if you ever want to forge another one of these. The answer and the results of that can only be found in one place. Eruvia. For it is their technique. Although it was rumored that there was once a master who studied, and he was Taikarosi. But he hasn't been heard from in 50 years.
Man, go ahead.
And so as he reveals this, the bickering begins to start, and the woman over the left shoulder begins to look at the one over the right. And she touches him again as those questions. You shouldn't have said, and it's just this, you shouldn't have said anything, just this whole barrage of, and he's like, I know. And he's chattering again, and she reaches over and touches the spirit over the right shoulder. And he says, I have something else to show you. And he steps up and leads you towards that back stairway that leading down. Mm-hmm. And takes you downstairs into a series of halls hewn out of stone and earth, and into a room off to the side that has a display of weapons all around it. He says, these are other examples of these types of Leviathan teeth weapons, but these are not special. These are poor attempts with dire consequences. And you see some that are just cracked all along their blade. One that's a sword that appears to be a stone blasted kind of white, and it's got one long crack running through it. And he says, the Taikirosi master had many failed apprentices. Do not trust that there anybody can help you. You must go to Aruvia if you wish to forge another. And you see again the two spirits kind of come back on him, and the woman motions to you and says, you know, in a gesturing kind of a way, that she can't keep this up. And she touches the man over the right shoulder one more time. And Lord Penderin kind of steps up and says, I don't think. He just pauses, and the man over the right shoulder is trying really hard. And finally he looks at you in the eyes, and Lord Penderin for the first time looks you directly in the eyes, straight away, and says, I don't think you're going to succeed. The spirit wardens know you're coming. And the voice begins to chatter, and the Penderin just kind of freaks out in pain. And so something you begin to notice is that there was a third spirit kind of hiding itself from you, feeding him information. How the spirit kind of hid itself until then, but it's this outline. And you realize that spirit has been following you and wanting to talk to you, and used Penderin as a conduit. And its shape is vaguely that of your father's.
Does it say anything?
It can't speak to you directly.
That's super inconvenient.
It can't. It's so vague, and its shape is so formless right there that it's just like it's trying to, and you see that it's moving, and it leans in close. The reason you haven't noticed it before is because your tuning hasn't allowed you to. Your strength in tuning into the ghost field, and this is the first time that you're beginning to notice things that are even more there than before. Right? You're beginning to see more of the ghosts of the past. You're beginning to see more of the elements of that kind of surround just the spectral energy that represents what's currently going on.
Tell you what, I still have my full kit from the last time we killed 100 people, and we can.
What?
I still have all my gear from the last time we killed a bunch of people.
It was 7.
No, we killed like a couple dozen. We killed a bunch of people.
Okay.
So Nix doesn't really understand the ghost field or what it is, but he knows that he can interact with certain objects, and he understands that there's a vague form of what his father is. He reaches inside of his coat and pulls out his spirit mask in the ghost field and hands it to Ghost Dad.
I'm curious what you're expecting to happen before I tell you what actually happens.
So similar to Nye exploding and being, touched by all kinds of spirits immediately, and that's why we assume she's got split personality things happening with her.
So meta, yeah, that's what's going on.
Right.
So.
The pieces of this mask, the wood this mask is made of, the black wood is not actually black wood. It is the charred remains of the boats that made up the flotilla of the Dastardly family from the massive explosion. Nix fully believes that the blue glow that comes down this thing when he's in the presence of ghosts is remnants, pieces, fragments of the ghosts that were on, or the spirits that came out of that explosion. So if this ghost has been following him, he offers it in hopes that the ghost can anchor itself to this in some way.
So when the ghost reaches for it, as you're handing it toward him, Penderin looks up at you, and then looks back at the ghost, and looks at you. Where did he come from? As the ghost reaches out, the hand passes through, as if the ghost doesn't necessarily know it's dead, as it's trying to reach for it. And as the hand passes through, the mask lights up. An incredibly brilliant kind of blue. And for a moment, you can see that it's not just the shape of your father. There are many figures standing behind him, fanning out. And you can see that they're kind of in the walls, and that there's some out in the hallway beyond. And it just goes on and on and on as far as you can see. And you realize that the spirits of the flotilla are always with you.
Yeah, I don't know how to come back from that one. You got me. That's the end of that scene. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know how to recover from that one.
You're welcome for muting myself. I was singing it real loud.
Okay. So as that vision begins to fade of all of them, and the glow from the mask begins to kind of fade away, the voice of your father comes through for just a second. And it says, "Find me." And then he begins to fade too.
Okay. So, so Nyx, in true Nyx form, like takes the mask back, puts it away. Stoically looks to Lord Pendrin, while he still seems like he is focusing. How, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how twitchy is he?
He's beginning to lose control again.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so before he fully loses it, because I think Nyx can kind of see it now when he's slipping back on this Richter scale of crazy, he looks to the guy and says, "Caius, what is he?"
Shh. As he jitters. One last. Fine. And he gets up and he starts to storm out. And he heads back up to the library, not even waiting for you to follow him.
Yeah, he's hot on his tail.
And so, hot on his tail, he begins to walk down a series of random, essentially aisles until he gets to one point. And he grabs up for a book, and he sees that you're behind him, and just continues to move forward. And he throws the book on the table, flips it open, and he says, "That's who Caius is." And what you see on that book is a line of succession of royalty dating back pre-cataclysm of Eruvian royalty. And Caius is a prince. And he is the 13th monarch. And you see the symbol that Caius carries on everything that he does. And that symbol represents the 13th monarch in the line of succession. And it says that he never actually became king. And that there were a number of other individuals in quick succession in the 200 years prior to the cataclysm.
So he predates the cataclysm? Is that what I'm inferring from this?
That's exactly what you're inferring from this.
Okay. Yeah, he closes the book, looks at Pendrin, and says, "Thank you, and we shall talk again about your son, if you're able." And he looks at the two ghosts on his shoulder. "But now is not that time."
And he responds, Nicholas is lost. Nicholas, he's lost. Shh, no. And you hear the voice say, to ask you, the voice over the right shoulder wants him to ask you about the circumstances of Nicholas's disappearance. But it comes out in more just kind of whispers and rasps. And the woman, for the first time, looking over the shoulder from the left side, doesn't look like she's moving to quiet the shoulder, the ghost over the right shoulder. All right. Do you know where my son is? Why would you ask if you don't know? You must know. You must. And he continues to repeat this, but he won't look at you, and he's so jittery, and the ghost over the right is just kind of driving that point home and just trying to get you to answer.
Nix leans in real close enough that the ghosts kind of have to lean in, and says, "You've done me a great service. Send me everything you have on your son, and I will find him."
Send me everything you... Okay.
He knows more about what the hell's happening to his kid than I do. Hell, I didn't even know he's missing until this second right now.
So his response to that... So the reason you caught me off guard with that is because he's not in a state where that... I mean... Okay. So... The woman over the left shoulder reaches over to the one on the right and calms it down long enough as she looks at you, and for the first time, you don't see sympathy, but you see concern and this intense desire to know. And for a moment, Penderin falls back to that state of normal and looks at you and says, "I don't know much, and I don't want to know what you mean by send, but this is what I do." He was recently working with somebody on a secret project. Nicholas has his own desires and means and does not want to follow in the family work. He was last seen going into the Lost District, looking for something. And then the voice starts again, and it becomes this cacophony as that voice just kind of comes in, and you lose the ability to get a coherent answer out of Penderin from there. And you see him reach into something on his belt, and he pulls it out, and he ingests it. And the smell that you get off of it just a little bit is that it's lure. And he takes an incredibly large hit of that. And the ghosts just kind of fade back. And he just kind of leans back. I think we're done here. And his head starts to lie back. And, he's sitting in that chair and he's just in a stupor now. And you realize that he's under a dose of a heavy influence of lure, and nothing else can come of this.
Yeah. Okay. Nix realizes this, and he begins to walk back up the stairs. Confused and concerned about things. As he
One
saw...
last-
Oh, good.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
This is a leaving thing. If it's
well, this is also a leaving thing. So go ahead.
So on the stairs, as long as there isn't an attendant there, he kind of. I mean, he can manage stairs himself. He has the mask out, and he has the dagger out, and he is carving into the front of the mask.
You hear something at the bottom of the stairs as you're making your way up these 50 or 60 stairs through this, these stone stairs hewn out of the ground and earth and lined with a brick of some kind. And you look back down, and for the first time, you see the woman just kind of staring up there, looking at you. And the noise that you hear is a little bit of a sob, as you can see that she's crying. But she's looking up at you, and she's looking up at you with hope. And as you recognize that, she begins to fade and is no longer there.
Sweet. I'm done for the day, guys.
And that's it for Blades, guys.
You
Join
guys
us next week.
You guys take over. I gotta process emotions. You guys got this.
Okay, so that is your fifth downtime action project?
Yep.
17th.
All right. So I'm going to remove that, or like I said, that clock's complete. Does anybody want to do anything else in downtime? Or can we actually get the freaking game now?
That's it.
Can we start preparing for our thing?
Guys,
that
was a throwaway downtime.
That was what you expected to be a throwaway downtime, but there was a hell of a lot that got revealed in there, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of exposition that you guys now get to chew on. Now, so moving into free play from all those downtime actions, you basically just came away from the Red Sashes meet. Went your separate ways to do those little things, and you're coming back together. Where do we find you guys?
The bottom of a bottle?
OC is probably fixing and stitching back up her outfit that was torn during the fight.
Okay.
Should we say Eden?
No, we'd be at the Gallows Respite.
Yeah.
All right.
We have a restaurant or a bar now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just for a note, Steam has not returned to Eden since the adventure with Sling. He has been at the barge or at the Gallows Respite.
Okay. We'll get to that later.
Okay. So we find you at the Gallows Respite.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Steve and
Reassembling?
myself would walk in.
Can I ask a quick, just sort of vague sort of timeline question about how long would it take for you guys to come back together?
How long does it take to get in contact with Pendrin?
That was definitely a full day of activity.
Okay, so a couple.
Probably
it was
a
at
day
least-
or two later.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Because I got the
by-
invitation, and then we went to the thing.
Right. So by the time you all get back together at the respite, you begin to see the garrisons at the bridges beginning to pack up. They are breaking down the complete lockdown of Crow's Foot. And all of those resources and materials and supplies and wagons and essentially stations that have been established on all 5 of the bridges into Crow's Foot are all being, essentially disassembled as the soldiers are packing up and moving back to White Crown. So martial law, so the complete lockdown of Crow's Foot is now, quote unquote, ended. Although has not been an official announcement as to its end or why it took so long for them to bring it down.
Okay. Once we all get back together, OC would be, with everything that's going on, all the information she has and everything, she'd be all business. Like, when are we going back out there? So I got some information about the woman who was terrorizing Crow's Foot.
I see. Raymond's just going to grab a damp cloth and start dabbing some spilt liquor that was on him. And what is that?
It appears my conclusion that it was Nye is true. She was taken, the vigilante was taken and traded through Crowsfoot and ended up in Brightstone with Mr. Gull. There was a group, a new group, that we may have to worry about. They went to go see my sisters. They were the ones that transported her, and then they went to go see the sisters.
Lovely. More rat bags to deal with.
I don't know what this means, but for now, we have a meeting to set up with the Aruvian general. Is that okay with everyone?
I believe so. Steam and I have had an interesting afternoon. Met up with... what does he call himself? Jinx Godifer?
How did that go?
Let's just say Jinx Godifer.
It was a cock-swinging contest, and Bowerstone won.
Essentially, yes. Thank you, Steam. But him and apparently Jinx and I go quite a bit back. He used to be a bodyguard, soldier, you know. He's a bit of a commoner. Nothing
Embarrassment causes quite a few name changes.
Yes. Sure, a few dress changes as well. Anyway, also met with the person you speak with, Nyx. Sky?
If you see Nyx is at the bar, and he has one of those towers of shot glasses in front of him and a bottle of Dagger Isles fire whiskey. Not his own, and it is almost empty.
OC will walk over and take the rest of it and sit down next to you.
Yeah, well, I met up with Sky. Is he okay?
What?
Is he okay? Nyx, you right there?
And he does one of these, and the glasses kind of fly everywhere. And then he looks back and says, yes.
OC will motion to one of her girls to and just squeeze a wet rag down his head over his face of cold water.
Yeah, he shakes it off and stands up and walks over to the table. You were saying something about...
Sky.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I had a meeting with him and... we're going to call him Jinx for now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say they wanted things, and I played it off. They're not going to get anything. They tried to do the whole Scovelander, I have the Scovelander vote. You need to bend to my every wish before you will actually get the Scovelander vote, like it actually meant anything.
Is this the same person who was leading them before, so to speak? She's talking about when you spoke on stage about being allied.
Yes. I believe he goes by, yes, Jinx. And what was the second name that we called him? Wrath. Thank you. But I knew him as Grid when he was, back then.
Competent.
Is he someone we need to worry about at the moment?
He's wanting wealth and a certain bar. Johnny, what was the name of the bar that they wanted again?
The Leaky Bucket.
Thank you.
The Leaky Bucket, yeah.
They wanted the Leaky Bucket.
Funny you mentioned that. I know she's just smiling.
It's hilarious.
And Sky also wanted to run, I believe, most of the recreational things throughout Crowsfoot.
They also wanted to fly and be taken seriously. None of these things are going to come to pass.
But I did the correct thing, and I was polite enough to let them speak.
Okay. Like with the Red Sashes, of course. Very polite.
Yes, I didn't push anyone in that bar.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that he shot me?
Sky shot you?
Yes.
I thought maybe you shot yourself.
No.
Are you too inebriated for jokes, Nix?
Only the not funny ones. And he slides into a chair at the table.
Is this an unusual drunk type?
You've never seen Nick's drunk. You've seen Nick's drink.
So should I make the meeting for tomorrow then, so you have time to collect yourself?
We have a meeting.
Please, OC, do. I think Nyx is going through some crisis.
We're all going through a crisis. Some of us deal with it in different ways.
Yeah,
Sleep on it.
We'll adjourn for now and go to this meeting tomorrow. By the way, OC, remind me not to piss you off.
She's just playing with her hand, staring at you. Because she thinks it's funny to fuck with him.
So is that scene?
Yeah.
Yes, then we'll move on.
And we're moving on to the meeting of the general, right?
The next day. Yep.
Right. But so that's the next thing that happens. That's the score that you guys are going to go for, right?
Yeah.
I would have set it up that day when we were sitting in the bar talking. I would have sent something like, "Hey, we're coming tomorrow with this calling card."
Okay. So the Aruvian consulate. Let me double check the location on that. The Aruvian consulate, though, is where the calling card would lead you to. What do you want to do in regards to any type of research or investigation prior to making this actually happen?
For myself, I would want to know what is their affiliation with the school and the Red Sashes in terms of, let me put it this way. I asked him if he knew about the ghost contract and what their plan was. And clearly it wasn't a secret. I mean, they're pulling people in on trains. Where does he fall in the line of like knowing anything about what's going on?
Okay, so how would you go about investigating that though? Like how would you acquire that type of information?
I could ask his contact. Nix's contact in the Red Sashes.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and have why don't you do a roll there for the contact, the cohort?
You want to do that, Mike?
Sure. There we go. Roll. No bonus dice, I assume?
Do you want to argue for something, or does somebody want to assist in some way, shape, or form?
Would OC know it all? Any of that?
Can you give me a reason why she might?
Being a part of the school and being offered a spot in the Red Sashes, would she know anything?
What the relationship between the consulate and the school is?
Yeah.
Yes. Would she know what the relationship between the consulate and the Red Sashes are? Vaguely.
Okay, so then no.
Well, so there would be some, because you refused to be in the Red Sashes, right? Because you refused their offer, you wouldn't have a lot of insight into what was actually going on in that relationship. There might be some of that can be gleaned from the school's involvement, because you know that the school and the Sashes are tied in some way, shape, or form. And you would have seen some of that going on. There was a third part that you were looking for, though. What was the third part? It was
why wouldn't they know about it?
Why wouldn't they know about it?
That's a huge thing. There's trains coming in with refugees. How would they not know about it? Was it like hush hush? Was it just like, oh, we're bringing in students from other schools because that's a normal thing? Like, what was the assumption? I want to go in with more knowledge about,
Okay, so you would understand the relationship about the school in relation to the consulate. The role will be about information about the Sash's connection to the consulate and the why the refugees are being brought in droves. Okay,
Yeah.
Is that okay? All right.
Yeah,
so,
well, I know why they're being brought in. She told us. It was more of like, how could they not fucking know about that?
How could
Because he acted like he didn't know about the contract, meaning he didn't know that they were specifically bringing in those people to take over the city.
No, the ghost contract was to kill Bowerstone. He didn't know.
But that's why it was a ghost contract, and that's why he was bringing people into the city to be trained there.
No, that's not why people were being brought into the city. The refugees are being brought in for a very specific reason. The money that was part of the contract was to make sure that the Crow's Foot would stay within the Red Stash's responsibility or focus on that. She told you that pretty much.
The people are being brought into the city because the spirit well is dying.
Right. So there's actually a little bit more to it than that, and you can actually find out some more information. But there's not a direct connection to those refugees being brought in and the ghost contract. The contract was specifically about killing Bowerstone, would allow Keel to specifically
take over the city, and I thought that he was going to take over the city using those refugees because they were all of pure Aruvian, is what I thought. That's what I gathered from what we were talking about last game.
That's not not exactly what's going on. There's some element of that could be revealed, but that's not exactly what's going on. So why don't you go ahead and roll, and I'll tell you I'll start with the details that you would know, and then we'll go in with what's left. Okay. Cool. So you get a pretty good amount of information given the fours. So here's what you would absolutely know about the details about the relationship between the Red Sashes the school and the Aruvian consulate. There is a large, essentially gathering or contingent of people that are from Aruvia specifically tied to the consulate. The consulate is there to essentially publicly, they're there to ensure that Aruvian interests in the Leviathan trade and the other trade goods that funnel through Doskvol get handled and managed appropriately. There is rumor that part of the reason that they are there is to control the Sashes, to make additional essentially revenue, to gain more wealth, so that they're able to solidify their needs for Aruvia. But that's a rumor, and that's not any information. That would be something that would be spread around the school. The relationship with the school is specifically serves two purposes. First is those consulate members bring in their entire family and spend an incredibly long time in Doskvol when they are stationed there. So the Aruvian school serves as sort of like this traditional, like almost a prep school in some way, shape, or form, but bringing in the youth from Aruvia, these consulate family members, sons and daughters, and training them in the traditions so that they don't get lost in the lifestyle of Doskvol. Because the consulate members tend to be more of the affluent type, so they would live in places like Charter Hall, or they would live in places like even potentially Brightstone, depending on how much money those families had. Very few Aruvians that are brought in would be of anything lower than an affluent class of some kind. Those that would actually be living with as fostered or as a part of the household of those Aruvian families. So the second purpose that the Doskvol or the Aruvian Sword Academy serves is to train and discover like-minded individuals who would work really well for the Aruvians as essentially resources, spies, anything that involves sort of the political intrigue and the activity. So if a noble family sent their son or daughter to be trained there, the Aruvians would try to influence them in such a way so that they could be manipulated into being served as a political asset of some kind to serve the Aruvians' ultimate goal. So very much sort of like a Cold War tactics in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And those that would be one of the things that you would have directly experienced, because they would, as you were trying to be, very veiled about who you were and what you were doing, they were constantly trying to figure out who you were and constantly picking and prodding at you, trying to get more information about you. They knew that you weren't from a noble family, but they knew you had some significant value based on the way that you responded to the training, the skill with which you showed, all of that, right? So because you became a master, there's still that memory there. There's still that knowledge that you are a valuable asset of some kind, and that they could never actually convert you, right? So you would have experienced a lot of that particular circumstance, and would have bonded with others who were non-Aruvians at the school, who were being, sought in that same capacity. Not everybody was converted, but you were surprised at first to realize that their success rate was actually a lot better than you would expect. And a lot of that had to do with instilling the values and honor of the Aruvians and the culture, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so that's all the information that you know, based on what Needle is able to provide to you with the additional context. The consulate also runs the sashes in an indirect level. While they don't direct the day-to-day operations, they depend on the resources and connections to get things done in the city that cannot be otherwise accomplished through normal political means. And the Aruvians are very proud. They would prefer not to employ outside sources unless they are in some way connected to the Aruvians, right? Connected through the school, converted to their honor system or what have you, which is another reason that the red sashes actually exist. The red sashes are there to collect those that are not essentially caught up, that couldn't get caught up in the political intrigue side, the Cold War side. So if they couldn't get them with honor and the manipulation and bring them in as as a part of the fold of the Aruvians, well, they would get them with, hey, we make a lot of money, we do this, we'll make you rich, we make you wealthy, we'll make you powerful, you can be, and they tend to convert most of the ones that would not become a part of the political intrigue into red sashes. So it was essentially a recruiting school, and you saw a fair bit of that too. After you refused not to get involved with the first half, essentially the drive to recruit you, you saw in the second half. But Needle just basically affirms that that's coming all the way from the consulate, okay, all the way from the top, and so your position in all of this plays a wild card for the general. And that's, there appears to be a lot of activity at the school to try to figure out who you were, because it was obvious you were trained there. So Needle also provides you with that bit of information.
Okay.
And so that's where we'll call all the details that coming out of that investigation.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything else to prepare as far. I just wanted to know some of that I didn't know. So that was good. Do you guys have anything you want to do before we go to this meeting?
It doesn't take a downtime action to repair armor, does it?
That would be
repairs.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff, the stuff that would be pulled back together. Are you still carrying around that freaking?
I want to get it repaired, please.
Carrying around the what?
He's still got the plate armor, or the thing of armor that he had from the assassination attempt.
Can you repair that?
It just comes back together.
Okay.
Yeah, people are dying, Johnny. I don't think you realize what Doskvol really is for a politician.
Oh, you're dying. We're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's fine. You're fine.
I died in this game.
You're all dying. You're fine. You're fine.
I would just like to point out that I'm going to go there with both swords.
I got shot once. I'm fine.
And my sash. I'm going to butter these fuckers up before I go there.
I'm wielding steam.
If I had a little Aruvian flag, I would.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Johnny, can you sing me the national anthem of the Aruvians?
No, because only Trindane can do that because he's got it actually all kind of like composed in his head already.
All
It's
right, get him in here.
Dane, we have a request. Make that an audio file, buddy.
all right. Aren't all chaps assless? Didn't we have this discussion already?
Yeah, we already
I
talked
didn't
about
say it
that.
this time. I didn't say it this time.
I'm just reading chat. Anyways, all right. So here
It's
we
one of my
are.
people. Damn it.
So no other investigation going into this. How do you want to approach this? Do you want to call this straight up a social engagement, or do you want to go in with more nefarious intentions? And the reason I ask that is given the circumstance of how the last score went. Like it was supposed to be social and ended up a bloodbath fight.
This, to me, this is a consulate. We're not going in there guns a-blazing. This is...
last time.
Yeah, well, they're assholes. This is, to OC at least, especially with the nod of, like, take her sword, you deserve it, because you know, that, like, the respect aspect, she would go into it like, we didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, we killed people, but, like, we didn't start it. And also, maybe he didn't know what was going on. You know what I mean? Since they're not, she would know even more so. They're not in the day-to-day, so maybe he didn't know that she had this deal and whatever. It doesn't benefit them at all for her to have had that contract.
Okay.
So, it could have caused other issues. So we're going to go in there and just talk to them. If they aren't going to side with us, then that'll be a later decision, conversation, whatever. But this is just social, for OC at least. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah.
Were you listening at all, Mike? Sometimes you get this, like...
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, given that, I am going to assume that your loadouts are very much the same as walking into the previous score.
Yes.
Except for the sword, the additional sword on OC.
That reminds me.
No.
Okay.
You get no reminders.
All right.
So,
it says, like, with a lot of these things, it says, like, a blade or two, a pistol, and then a second pistol. Can you have two unusual weapons?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
You would just do an unusual weapon and then a large weapon, probably, if anything. Just, like, weight-wise.
I bet I would.
Well,
no, they're both small weapons.
Are they now? Wow.
Yeah, he gave up his hook, essentially, to use the dagger, but he would.
My eyes can't roll hard enough. Can we go?
Is that a DM's rule? Is that a thing you do?
It's always interesting to me that you gave up the hook for the dagger. I definitely think that you could carry both, especially given what you typically wear or what you typically describe Nyx as wearing. Mm-hmm. The one question I would have for you is, and you've mentioned this before, you tend to carry the hook at the small of your back, mm-hmm. and then you replace that with the blade. Where are you carrying the blade, and where are you carrying the hook? There will be a significance to this if it comes up in a particular situation.
Yeah, with what just happened, the hook is on his belt, on the front of his pants.
Out for everybody to see, basically?
Mm-hmm.
He's Captain Hook.
Okay.
You just got it dangling there?
Yeah.
He just needs a new boat.
I mean, before it was tucked in his back.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you one pointed question, and then we're going to get to the engagement roll. Are you officially broadcasting that you're Dagger Isles now?
I mean, the tan sort of gives it away to most people. But
sure, but you could also get that same tan, which is a lack of tan completely because this, is a world full of night. And
they are copper-skinned people, yeah.
Yes. But you would that same copper skin could also be considered Eruvian descent. Yeah,
so you would know at a minimum that he is a boatman from somewhere that's not Doskvol. I'm not sure if the hook is unique to Dagger Isles. It's definitely unique to boats.
Okay, I'm just trying to get you to clarify because this is the first time that Nyx is openly doing something that would imply that background. That's all.
You could. Okay. I mean, if you combine the copper skin and the hook, you could assume Dagger Isles would be
right.
Would likely anyone that's smart enough or interacts with people would know,
or has been to the Dagger Isles, or
yeah,
right.
Trades.
Okay. Great. Now let's talk about the engagement roll. 1 die for sure luck. 1 die specifically for the calling card. What else is in your favor, guys?
The fact that we killed all of them.
That's not in a favor. Those are their people. The fact that I was honest with him about what happened and I didn't try to, like, you know what I mean? Maybe the fact that I was, we clearly weren't there to keep fighting. We didn't try to kill him. We didn't, you know.
Okay. I think that definitely applies. What else? So that's 3 dice so far, guys, for the engagement roll.
I was gonna say the fact gathering we did, going into it and knowing how it works, and you know,
Okay, that's 4. Absolutely.
the fact that I'm part of the school, was that already one?
No, that wasn't. I actually didn't think about that either. That totally makes sense. Yes.
The fact that I'm considered an asset, or they're at least like want to hear what we're gonna say. They're not just mad.
Well, yeah, it's you being steeped in the traditions of the Eruvian sword school, and being steeped in a lot of essentially what they would consider their sense of honor and lore, right?
Would Bowerstone's existence be one?
I'm also here.
We're in Crowsfoot, and he is a person.
So he is most
Well,
often a person.
I am here. I am person.
So, okay, well, I got to ask you this question then. Okay, his interaction, he never actually interacted with the consulate general at all.
Right, but he is who he is. He is the running the unopposed running alderman.
If he spoke to anyone in that room, they're like, "That was the guy running for alderman,"
Yeah.
and his assassins.
Okay, all right, sure.
Friends.
All right. So that's another one. So that's 6 engagement die in your favor so far.
Okay.
All right. Let's start talking about negatives, because 6 is a lot in this particular case.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think before I start suggesting? What's not working for you guys?
We have never been in there in the Eruvian consulate. And we don't have any ties or any assets or anyone that could help us out if we get in trouble in there.
Yeah, we're not Eruvian either.
We killed all of them.
None of you are Eruvian. That's a factor. Absolutely. So that's 5 instead of 6.
That and the uncertainty.
I think
Maybe
Okay.
maybe the uncertainty because of what we did.
Well,
Okay.
to be fair, none of them were in there with us when we went ham on all those guys.
Yeah, but we're going to their home turf.
Fuck them.
well, you were already, well, so technically
Can't
you
just
were
fucking
also
rip-
already on their home turf in the school, right? And you
No.
basically you basically set them straight in their own, essentially in their
That's-
home environment.
That's fair.
So I think a negative against you guys. So being in a government, essentially a government institution, for lack of a better description, right? There's a sense of decorum and essential protocol that you may not necessarily be aware of, right? So you're the only one who even remotely might know would be Bowerstone, given the way he was raised, or potentially Nix. But I'm not sure if Nix had done any research about this prior to, and maybe we'll call that a flashback if it comes up, right?
Research in regard to what now?
Politics and protocol in walking into a consulate.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know if that would work for Reymond. I mean, maybe had a, be respectful and stuff like that, but not how the actual thing works.
Right.
I
Well,
should do a flashback right before they all died out. Now, Reymond, this is how it works.
Okay. All right. All right. So we're gonna call that another negative. So that's 4 engagement dice right now. Anything else?
That's all I get.
I don't think of anything else.
All right. I'm gonna present this, and I'll let you guys make the final decision. With good reason. Do you think the fact that you murdered so many of them?
I just said that.
Well, but okay, you're right. You did. Sorry.
We could, if you think it was that bad, we could do it twice.
Well, the way I was thinking of it was not necessarily about murdering the Red Sashes; it was murdering Eruvians. That was the context I was.
Yeah, but the way she left it was they attacked us. We came here to talk. So the way we're going to them is, are you going to attack us because we're coming to talk?
Right, because you did all that in the you did that with the reducing heat. So okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so let's call.
And I told him when we were leaving because he came in and asked.
Okay, so who wants to roll the engagement roll?
Steam.
No,
I like picking other random people.
No, I think it either belongs with OC or Bowerstone. So
Bowerstone.
Oh come!
No, it's OC.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone says OC.
Fuck. What am I clicking?
Fortune.
Hopefully, a critical is what we're hoping for.
So it's 4.
You're gonna get 4 die.
Huzzah!
Why hasn't it come through yet?
Because I put a note in there. Can you put it up on the screen?
No.
Can you put it up on the screen? It's real
All
important.
right, so that's a 5. That's a relatively good roll to start. Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys one question before, because I've got an idea for 2 places in my head, and I looked officially in the book and I couldn't find a listing for it. Where do you guys think the Eruvian consulate would be?
Peruvian.
Enjoy your stay.
I'm not listening to you right now because I'm asking you a serious question.
White Crown or what?
Charter Hall. So here's the difference. White Crown is the seat of the Imperial Governor's estate, the Imperial Military, the Royal Academy. I mean, I
don't think it would be there.
Yeah,
I don't think
wouldn't they be off on their own?
Charter Hall, but I'm asking you guys to help me set precedence here with where it actually is, because the other location is where the local government is, which is Charter Hall.
Honestly, I'd go with Charter Hall or Crowsfoot because they seem to have a
Crowsfoot.
presence in Crowsfoot.
It's dangerous. That's why they have their sashes there.
But so the reason I don't think that that Crowsfoot makes sense is that Crowsfoot, it's, for lack of a better way to describe it, is basically a slum, right? It's an incredibly poor district, and everybody that's in, or everybody that, as we sat previously, as we were talking about the investigation that the OC was doing prior, actually are incredibly affluent individuals from Eruvia.
Yeah,
I think Charter Hall makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make Bowerstone the slumlord?
What does the governor do?
Slumdog billionaire?
What does the governor do? That's vague.
No,
That's incredibly
vague. The governor
vague.
has a mansion. What is his role?
His role is to manage all of Doskvol.
Okay. Would the
Council of Six? The Council of Six is a set of nobles who run the day-to-day of the city through the aldermen. In my head, and it's still vague because of the way the book describes it, right? And that we get to establish a little bit of precedence here. The governor really does not have a defined role according to the book, as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
What I do know is that the governor is responsible for, again, the Imperial Academy, the Imperial Army there. The governor would have been the person to establish martial law across the entire city when, Phantom basically blew up that one tower, right?
And the governor is the imperial representative in Doskvol.
There are a number of imperial representatives in Doskvol. He's responsible for overseeing all of them, essentially, and making sure that the city is attached to the imperial, to the empire, essentially, as a whole.
Would the consulate not be near that?
That was why I asked. That was why I thought White Crown made sense.
Yeah. I mean, the governor's manse, the governor's area is there. I would assume that the other heads of other states would be in a similar area.
I don't...
That means that with that, going by that logic, you would have the Scotlanders in there as well, and the Tycherosi.
The Scovs don't have an embassy. And neither do the Tycherosi.
Okay,
right, but the Eruvians aren't considered. I mean, are they on equal standing with the? It's a very prejudiced culture. I'm just trying to ascertain exactly what the level is.
He's just trying to think
So the Eruvians, as I understand it from the books, the way the book's outlined, the Eruvians have been a part of the empire for a number of at least 200 or 300 years. Mm-hmm. And my assumption is that they have, quote unquote, fallen in line with the desires of the emperor and the empire as a whole. The immortal emperor, gives his decrees. Essentially the last island to come into the fold was the Skavland Island, and that was the Unity War that happened previously. And again, we're just a number of years, less than 5, out of the Unity War.
And the Tycherosi are only tangentially attached to the Empire. All that attaches them is the railroad, and no one really governs them. And the book,
I got in.
Yeah, the book mentions that Dagger Isles constantly.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it makes more sense that it would be in Charter Hall, only because like when you first start and you're like putting a consulate to like have your people, you would have them in their own area. You wouldn't be right on top of each other. I don't know.
Okay, so here's what I'm looking at in respects to the institutions listed in the book under the factions of Doskvol. Ignoring the tier and hold statuses because a couple of those have changed. But what you see in the book, there is a consulate for the Eruvians. There is a consulate for the Skavlanders. There is a Severosi consulate and a Dagger Isles consulate. There is nothing for the Tycherosi.
That's racist. Steam Season 3. Put it in our notepad.
Wow, oh god, yeah. All right, so
you may joke. That's a good idea.
all right. Again, we just need an answer at this point, guys. I mean, the discussion's great.
But
do we want to vote?
Yeah, Charter Hall's fine.
Charter Hall. All right. So you will also find Dagger Isles, Severosi, and Skavland consulates in Charter Hall as a part of the just on the outskirts of essentially the downtown district that we've established as the seat of government, the seat of local government there. When you arrive there, you see that there is the hustle and bustle of the day-to-day activity of a consulate, in the essentially the seat of government in the center of local government. There are a couple of soldiers of the Eruvian army clearly wearing their swords, indicating that they are of a rank higher than essentially a foot soldier, but not anything of it like, not like a lieutenant of any kind. But when you arrive and you present the calling card, they acknowledge it immediately, welcome you to the consulate, and signal to have an attendant come through. Basically it's a kind of an estate situation where there is a gate and then there's a little like a courtyard or surrounding grounds around the essentially the small mansion that is the consulate, and they signal for an attendant to come and actually escort you in, and only when that attendant comes to the gate do they open it, allowing you to basically slip inside, and it is at that point that you realize that the grounds are incredibly well manicured, in a representation of quote unquote luxury, for lack of a better description. And as they escort you inside, you find yourself in a hallway where the hustle and bustle of busy is, and there is an individual sitting at a desk, and she is an attendant just kind of managing various staff members just moving throughout the house, and you realize, or the mansion, and you realize that this person is sort of like an office manager, kind of shifting things back and forth. You don't see Eruvian soldiers, Eruvian essentially army represented inside anywhere. It just appears to be the hustle and bustle of activity. And so you are escorted by this attendant, and the office manager woman looks and acknowledges the attendant, acknowledges you, and basically gives a signal representing a number or room of some kind. And you are escorted up the stairs and towards the back of the building into what is essentially a lounge or a sitting room, which vaguely reminds you, actually, OC, of the same type of room that Rosalind keeps inside of the Demmer sisters' mansion. Very different laid out in respect to the way that the furniture is placed, but there is clearly a seat for for whoever is the representative, and then there are couches sort of associated around, and there are various tables and a place for refreshments. Essentially a cabinet full of drinks and glasses and that kind of a thing. And you are escorted in, and the attendant says, "He'll be with you shortly. He's in another meeting right now, but he'll be right with you shortly." And closes the door and locks it as she steps out. Now, is there anything that you guys want to do prior to that actually happening? That him actually coming into the room and doing that meeting?
I'm attuning to make sure there's nobody else in here with us.
Okay, roll it.
It's just 700 demons in the corner. Lining the walls.
There's a sea of ghosts following Nyx.
Demon.
Literally.
Demons.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. What happened there, buddy?
I nailed it.
I don't think
Almost
you've ever
confidence, Greg.
you've never failed on a tune roll like this before, have you? Not in a circumstance where it's just kind of normal, right?
It happens to every guy occasionally.
Way to rub it in.
Sometimes you can't attune.
Right. Okay. So, given the engagement roll, which was mostly positive, and the negative of that roll, you don't notice when you attune. You don't really notice that there's actually any presence in this room. What you do notice, however, is that the doors and the walls shimmer in a way that tells you
I'm trapped.
that they're shielded. Yeah, that there's some sort of barrier there, preventing entry and exit through the ghost field. Like you could not move through them easily. You probably could move them, but it's. And there's one other thing that you notice that's just sort of seated, sort of placed on the wall, is like a little vial, like with a flower, and you realize it's a very rare Eruvian flower that's probably grown using radiant energy farms, and has in a greenhouse somewhere very close. But what's unusual about it is that there is like a glow coming from the bottom of the vial, and it's the same type of glow that you would see from a spirit vial. And that kind of catches you off guard.
I relay this to everyone. It appears that we are all locked in here. And the vial over there appears to be spirit in nature.
Nyx pulls a draft from his flask and looks over to Steve and says, "Locked in here with me again."
She's going to put her hand over the top of the flask and slowly push it down.
Yeah, I was just about to ask: is Nyx drinking heavily?
Not right now. He's drinking, but not inebriated like he was yesterday.
Not anymore.
Are you also being nonchalant about it? Are you being very, just kind of?
Yeah, I mean, he always has his flask on him.
You openly drink.
Yeah, he always has his flask on him. He doesn't hide the fact that he is a pirate.
He's got a hook on the front of his pants right now, and he's drinking out of a flask.
Yeah.
Eruvian culture frowns on drinking.
Yeah.
So how about this time? We'll drink after.
Okay. All right. So if there's nothing else, then time will pass. We'll do a cut to the door opening and the consulate general, not dressed in an an Eruvian army uniform, more in the clothes of someone who is like a business suit, steps into the room, and another younger individual steps in behind him, who appears to be some sort of secretary or attendant, based on the fact that they're carrying a folder of papers and a pen. One of the the pens that like Nick stole from Lady
It was
Rowan.
given to me.
Uh-huh.
She literally handed it to me.
She literally gave it to him. God damn it.
God, if anyone steals things, it's Steve.
Yes. Anyways, so stepping into the room, he just kind of surveys it real quickly, and he says, I must apologize. This was a bit unexpected, and I've had a busy schedule, but I'm glad that you arrived finally. The circumstances at the school have concerned me greatly, and there has been some developments. It's a challenge. Now, how shall we begin? Shall we do with introductions? And he looks to you expectantly, OC.
So, would she have ever met this person, or would her name have ever been passed when she were a different person? Would she think?
That's a good question.
Should she use her other name? Is what I'm trying to ask.
About how long ago, from your perspective about your character, would you have been at the school?
Like to the 10 or so. Oh, say like since she's been there, yeah, like 10 years.
Okay, right. So there would have been a significant amount of time between that. So you may have seen him in passing, unless, I mean, again, as we talked about, the Eruvians use the school as sort of like a grooming space for their children. And then a developing space to acquire assets from other noble families. But you would have, maybe there was a ceremony where you may have met him as a part of a graduation of some kind.
Yeah.
You would have seen him as probably somebody in the hierarchy of the consulate, and not necessarily the consulate general. But I'm not sure necessarily how familiar you would be with him directly about that, unless there's something that you want to establish, and I'm okay with that, right?
No, does he have any kids that would have gone to the school that she would know?
He definitely would have had a kid.
Okay. So she would.
Yeah, it probably would have been somebody around your age and when you would have bonded with at the time.
What's his name?
Hold on a second. Let me dig up the Eruvians.
Dave.
So pretty much what she's going to do is say she's going to hold out her hand. Not in a way that masters would, but just like a friendly handshake.
Okay.
Oliver Sin, I do believe I went to school with your son. He's quite a fighter.
Looks at you a little uncertainly at first. Really? That's fantastic. I didn't realize. And he starts to gush about what his son has done since then. He's now back in Eruvia, and he's a major in the Eruvian army, and he's just talking about this. And he gets to a point. He's like, and he gets quiet for a second. He says, "Well, I'm thank you for that.
Of course.
I'd forgotten. He died just recently. I received a letter just last week.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
I don't know how much you know about what's going on in Udwasha, but with the circumstances around the well, we've had some unusual rioting and activity.
Mm.
And Oliver Sen, well, it's a pleasure to meet you. Who are these gentlemen with you?
These are my friends. As you may know, this is Lord Bowerstone. He was running for alderman currently.
As she says that, he'll actually step forward and go to shake his hand. How are you?
A pleasure.
No, pleasure's mine.
She'll look to the other two like...
Nick steps forward and puts his hand out to shake this man's hand and says, "You may refer to me as Nixarian Destarosi." And puts his hand forward and shakes his hand.
Steam simply nods.
Doesn't say anything else?
Nope.
Okay, he introduces himself. Sorry, guys, it took me so long to get to this, but I wanted to make sure I got the Eruvian names correctly. He introduces himself as Anave spelled AHNAV, Anav, Azu, AZU. So it's the Consul General Azu. Terrible pronunciation, but anyways. So Anav looks at you all as so the circumstances of the school, and he kind of looks around at the room real quick. Our mutual friends greatly troubles me. I'm sorry that they showed you disrespect for a master of the school. Our discipline and our honor don't always represent what we do on a day-to-day, but I always hope for the best. And so I must apologize for the actions of those individuals.
I apologize for the lives that were lost. It was unnecessary.
Your arrival here and the meeting with which you had brokered, though, what is your ultimate goal? It's not clear to me based on the eyewitness reports that I received prior to arriving. It seemed you wanted control of the sashes?
No, we wanted Lord Bowerstone. If I may speak for you, Lord Bowerstone.
Oh, of course.
We want Crowsfoot to be peaceful again. We want to unite all of the groups. The only way that we know to do that, with each group having their own services and goods and trade and livelihood within the city. We want each group to have their own voice, but to be a part of our group. We are organizing it in a way that there will be no more bloodshed. Every group will have fair representation, and it will be profitable for everyone.
When you say profitable for everyone, I mean, his demeanor at first is almost coming off a little bit as patronizing, and you soldier through that as you see that it playing across his face. And then as you begin to sell the tale of unity, it goes from that sort of just, okay, to a little bit of shock, to almost a sense of not concern, but it doesn't settle with him when you say profitability for all. And so when he looks at you, he's coming off with a sort of a disbelieving attitude, and he says, "We've been at war on the streets for a really long time. Crowsfoot is a bloodbath. It's a bowl of chaos. Nobody has been able to control it. Our best efforts, the recent kidnappings and human trafficking that we were doing, that was the first time that the business of crime has paid, and we were doing well. So given how everything has been decimated, and I'm not blaming you for all of those deaths, although I suspect that you were more involved," and he looks around at all of you, in the circumstances that the sashes currently find themselves in. Ultimately, my concern is not the crime, but that it does profit those who desperately need to from it. So can you explain to me what you mean by unity and by profiting?
By unity, I mean everyone has their own angle. The sashes have their own angle. You've been losing numbers. There have been incidents that we hear of. We have, and she points over at Bowerstone again, and then over at Nyx. We have people, eyes and ears all over the city. We know what goes on. We want the fighting to stop. Business will be double what it was when you're not concentrating your efforts on fighting other groups. We walked in and we all walked out. Picture all of us multiplied under one common cause. And then she'll look over at Nyx and say, the contract.
Yeah, and Nyx produces documentation. Essentially, the documentation would, in much more flowery text, but in more common language right now, the Crows used to be the ward boss of Crowsfoot. This would essentially, make Bowerstone act as the ward boss. All the other crews will sign this document agreeing to this. They will pay up to the current ward boss, and each crew will have their own slice of the pie, with the Aruvians dealing all drug trafficking. All drug trafficking.
With our
peddling.
Protection.
Yeah.
And with that, she's going to say...
with the stipulation that every crew provides men to form what shall be thus forth known as the Stonecloaks.
Yeah. So with that, while he's reading through it, she's going to say, I'm sorry, what was her name again? The woman I killed?
The woman that you killed?
I have it in my notes somewhere.
Hold on. Let me bring it back up.
Sorry.
Because she's dead, I forgot. It's all good.
I deleted it as well.
Who was that chick that we murdered?
Mylera.
I was going to say it, damn it.
Yeah, so...
I'm sorry. Did I take your moment, Greg?
It was a shame that our conversation, whether we agree or not, with Mylera had to go that way. Clearly, you respect rules and order and, a tradition. We're not trying to change anything at the school. We want to bring in more numbers for you, train more people, strengthen the Red Sashes along with the other groups. Any of them step out of line, it's the same rules for everyone. If you want the fighting to stop, this is the way we know how to do it, with Bowerstone at the top. And nothing changes for you other than that, other than reporting to us if there's an issue.
He listens to everything thoughtfully. As Nyx begins to outline all of the details, sharing all of that information, as he kind of looks over, as Nyx fills it in, and then you follow up with that, that hard pitch at the end. He's flipping through and he says, and the blacks and the crows. The Lampblacks are not known for playing well with others, and the crows are just interested in coin at the end of the day. At one point, we had actually talked to them about joining us. Mm. But that bastard Gull, there has been so much bad blood that we couldn't. And he shakes his head. If I ever get my hands on him.
OC's going to say, he is not going to be the leader of the Crows for very long. It's not a threat, but we don't deal with people like that either. We just have the means of changing the course of the Crows.
He leans in and he says, what guarantees can you give me right now that you won't betray me once everybody is under your control?
She's going to look to Nyx and smile.
Yeah. Nyx rolls up his sleeve past the elbow, and you can see the bottom of several of the hash marks on his arms, and he presents the pen and hovers it over the contract and says, "This binds both of us."
The deal that was made between Mylera and Keel was one that did not profit anyone but herself.
And I told you that I had nothing to do with that.
I understand that, but I don't want that to sway this decision. This is something that profits both people. This is something that you're doing for your people and for the groups. For safety, for money. The only downside I see is if you choose to go back on it. We won't give you any reason to.
That's a fair offer, young lady. And as you look at him, for the first time, you see him kind of squaring back. And his demeanor has changed a little bit as he looks a little older. And almost appears guarded. I don't sign ghost contracts. I do make deals. But I cannot be bound by something that will ultimately hurt my ability to do what I need to do for my people. So if you can offer me anything else as an assurance, you have a deal. And he sits back, looking at Nyx. Because at this point, he realizes that while you represent the tradition, Nyx represents the deal, make or break.
Steve, go ahead.
Gull's death. The end of the crows as you know them.
As you speak up and say Gull's death, the sharp, piercing gaze turns towards you. What do you have against Gull?
Nothing.
Then why would you kill him? He can deliver you the crows.
We can. The crows can be delivered either way. This is peace. I stuttered that all the fuck up.
Oh, Greg.
First time you've ever stuttered when saying something. So
He rolled bad. He stuttered. It's not him. It's
God.
not him.
I wasn't ready to speak. I've been drinking.
This meeting has gone
Somebody clip
well.
that. Somebody clip it. I need it. I need it in my life.
okay.
Blah, 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 blah.
What he said.
Well said. Now do you accept the deal? Deal or no deal?
After that eloquence, how can you possibly say no?
When he says Gull can deliver you the crows, Nick sort of leans back and he's slowly pulling the contract away, and he says, "As Mylera could have delivered the sashes," and he's rolling up the contract. Anyone can deliver anyone. It's all about who signs the contract.
And at the end of the day, you said yourself, you're sick of the wars. Don't you think it's time we stop it altogether?
Looks at OC.
Sorry, I just saw the name of that clip. Sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it.
So good. Okay. Looks from Bowerstone to OC to Nyx and back to OC and says, "He's a good puppet. Now, you deliver me Goal, his head on a platter, and this deal is yours."
Hmm.
Yeah. Nyx finishes rolling up the thing and he puts it back inside of his coat and stands.
She will put her hand out to take the calling card back. So she can come see him without, with a body in a bag.
You will not need that. He points to the sword on your, at your side. My Lyra's blade will allow you anywhere here, for as long as I say so.
OC will take her sword that she has had with her and give it to him. I used to train with your son with this. You cannot keep it, but hold on to it.
He takes it, and he looks down at it, and he looks at you, and he says, and just for a moment, you see the facade that is the strong the consulate general, fade away as a father looks at the sword. And a memory just crosses his face, and it just sort of dances in a soft sort of way, and there's a smile, and then there's a little bit of sadness in it. And he says, he won't even look at you as this is happening, and he says, "Thank you." And he places the sword next to him. And when you look, he looks back at you. The facade is back. The focus, the strong, the strong government official, the general, looks at you. And he says, "When it's done, I'll send word to a contact that I have in the Crows that will virtually guarantee that all you have to do is assemble the lamplocks." Now,
Thank you.
and he breathes a heavy sigh, looks around the room, just kind of, and he looks over to his secretary. "Do we have to move on quickly?" "Okay. I'm sorry, but I have another appointment. Somebody will come and show you out. Thank you." "Thank you."
You're most welcome. And she'll walk out too.
He steps up and steps out of the room, and the attendant is there waiting outside the door.
He steps
What are you
out
gonna say?
of the room?
He steps out of the room.
So Nyx was walking towards the door. As he passes Nyx, Nyx will stop him and say, "This is not a threat. A man in your employ who makes you quite a bit of money has an object that I want. This is outside of this," and he slides the contract up and puts it back down. "One of two things will happen. You can procure that item for me, or the maker of your drugs will turn up in a gutter."
What's that part about not a threat?
You're a fucking asshole. We could have just gone and gotten and made it look like an accent, you douche.
He looks to the secretary and says, "Just a moment," and he waves you back inside, and steps in behind you, and the door closes. The secretary is not there. He looks to OC and he says, "I'm sorry for this." And he looks to Nyx and he says, "Threats are not acceptable, especially in my own house. If you had asked, I would only help you. But now that you have threatened me, I'm going to ask you to never step foot here again. Otherwise, my blade will remove your head. You are welcome anytime, he looks to OC. But this one is not to ever come near me again.
Understood.
My sincerest apologies for this. I believe, yes, he's had a bit of alcohol.
And he begins to step out again. And as he looks back, he says, however, if you want Merrick, you will find him among the dens in Crowsfoot.
I know.
No, you really don't. And with that, he steps out.
She's gonna smack him on the back of the head as she walks out.
Let's all just form a chain line and all do this.
Yeah, all three of us. Well, at least the two of us.
Well, okay, all right. So we're going to call that scene, and you guys are going to step outside, and we're going to call that the end of the story. But I'm going to say this right. I think that Nick's position right now, given everything that he learned, I wouldn't expect him to do anything less at this point.
No, C's just mad. C's mad.
Absolutely.
Dude, this went beautifully. Last time we had to kill people. It was literally a bloody mess.
The other time that this has actually ever happened really well that's gone really well for you was, I believe, the social engagement with Madame Teslin, sorry. The first one that you guys did way back when, right? That was the only other one that went this smoothly. So phenomenal job, guys. So we're going to call that the end of the score, unless there's something else that you want to do with the Aruvian consulate.
Nope. Get the fuck out.
So
do you want to do anything, Steve? You want to creep around a little? What are you doing? What's that face for?
I'm going to try not to stutter. I'm going to think deliberately about the words that I use, and as I speak them, I say that we have 10 minutes, and that is plenty of time to kill Modern Doll.
Let's go.
Should we just do a drive-by?
Drive-by steaming.
Yeah.
I've got him. Give me 9 minutes.
I'll be right back.
Excuse me.
Do you guys want to go a little bit beyond? And
can we kill this fucker?
Oh, please, please.
Yeah, I'm
You've seen what we can do in a score in 10 minutes.
I'll do crit success to your group when they stream again.
We totally have done. We totally have done a score in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
You guys have done a score in 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask you this question. Do you want to waive downtime activity? We'll do payoff real quick. We'll do heat real quick. We'll do entanglements real quick, because the entanglements might actually apply to the score. And then we'll
double up downtime.
You'll double up downtime after that. I just want to make sure that
next episode, double up downtime.
Right.
Yep.
All right, great. All right, so here's what's going to happen, guys. Let's talk about payoff real quick. All right, that was a fucking huge score in a lot of ways for you guys. That was in no way a small job. You were dealing with the consulate general, essentially the lead government official for Aruvia. So that seems to me, and you negotiated a circumstance, a deal that involved not only Ruvians, but also the Red Sashes, who present themselves as two separate organizations. To me, that seems like a standard or even a big score. What do you guys think?
I would argue for big just because of what happened last week and how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
And we also proved that we can go in and do that and then clean it up the proper way, if that makes sense.
Okay. Right on. Let's do it. Let's call it, so that's going to be 8 coin. We're going to call it 2 rep by default.
Everyone take 2 coin.
I was just about to type that in chat. Okay.
Sashes were below you guys. So that would be a -1. But you weren't directly dealing with the Sashes. You were dealing with the Aruvian consulate. They are technically above you guys right now. So you're going to get 3 rep altogether.
Cool. Sounds good.
Now, let's talk about heat. This definitely was...
Is it a contained situation?
Well, so I'm trying to decide whether smooth and quiet or contained, because there's a couple of things that get thrown into this regardless, right? So let's talk about the other elements that get thrown into this. And then we'll go back to what makes sense in respect to contained or whether it's smooth and quiet. High profile target, Consulate General of the Aruvians. Absolutely. You guys, that's a +1 right there in respect to heat. You were seen walking into the consulate. Various people at the consulate know what was going on, so you get at least 1 heat for that. Situation on hostile turf? No, does not necessarily apply. You are not necessarily at war, and nobody is, nobody was killed at this point. So one there. The high-profile target also plays into the idea that it's contained. So it almost makes sense to me that it's just the 1 heat coming off of a smooth and quiet because it went so well for you guys. Does that seem to make sense to everybody? Are we good?
Sure.
I think so, yeah.
All right, cool. Then that's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it 1 heat. Very nice. I think it's the lowest heat that you guys have ever gotten from a score before. Great. So what is your heat at right now?
2? It was 7. We got rid of 6.
3.
You are 3. Okay, so I'm going to roll the. I'm going to do it in the background again, and I'm going to do it twice as per your. Per your skill for the crew. So and I'm going to take the lower of the 2. Ironically, they were absolutely the same, and you are 3 heat. Okay, great, no problem. So. With all of that done, how are you approaching this score of murdering Arngol?
I think
I'm
Steam should
lost.
pretend to be a drunk person wandering through.
Nix gives him his jacket.
Really kind of talk about it a little bit. What's really ultimately the goal is to kill somebody, right? Is an assassination, right? Very obvious. But are you going to blame it on somebody else? Are you going to make it just happen in broad daylight? Is this the kind of thing that you want to make public, private? A lot of those things are going to factor into, a lot of the stuff that we just talked about in respect to payoff and heat. I just kind of want to get a narrative idea of how this is going to play out.
So tell you what, I'm gonna consort. Yeah. I'm gonna consort and gather information with the Rook networks and just people. I think the civilians in Crowsfoot. I want to know what this place looks like, what the Leaky Bucket looks like, what the clientele look like, how often notable members of the Crows wander in and out, how often Gull is there. I know he's the owner.
I did that.
Yeah, he lives there and he tends bar.
Yeah, but like the other people, are they Crows? Are they regular people? When are there, when is their busy hour? When is their not busy hour?
Prior to the death of the leader of the Crows back in season 1, Martin generally ran the Leaky Bucket as sort of a business can be conducted, but there are no fights and no murder, no violence, basically, right? You can conduct a deal. It was not sanctuary completely. Mm-hmm. Business deals could be made. It's just there was no violence, right? He was very much a strong arm in respect to keeping, a clean and civil place. He had survived a number of conflicts, in his youth. And so in having survived, he wanted his retirement to be relatively quiet. Since then, you would note that there is a higher amount of activity of Crows walking in and out. And given the fact that the Gallows Respite is relatively close to the Leaky Bucket, you would have generally the same type of clientele and be able to see that. Those specific pieces of information, though, I definitely want you to roll for it.
Okay.
So you can get all the detail.
Blah, 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 blah.
Hey, just on that, my question is, does he have a family?
Ooh,
Specifically a spouse.
So I will say that I don't have an answer to that. I can tell you how we've played it previously in interactions with Gull. What did you roll? Where did you roll?
6.
You rolled a 6. Okay, so we'll get to that in just a second. So we haven't ever established that he had or didn't have a spouse. The interactions have always been directly with Gull inside of the Leaky Bucket. So at the end of the day, we can establish that if we want. If that's
like,
well, if that's an angle that you guys want to play, then that makes sense as, well, okay, we'll backtrack and say, yeah, he does have, a long-term relationship with somebody, or does have a wife, or does have, maybe he's got multiple ones. I don't know. I don't know how that would work out. Maybe it's a mistress that he has that you ultimately want to target. But we can establish any and all part of that. So here's what the role gets you from that for that consort. For the most part, Gold spends his time at the Leaky Bucket, and the majority of the traffic coming in that looks like they mean that it's more than just your average clientele are crows. Occasionally, there have been a couple of lampblacks that have wandered in there, and they have been forcibly kicked out. That appears to be a very there's a very no tolerance for lampblacks. There is no report of Eruvians or Red Sashes actually stepping into the Leaky Bucket and actually, trying to acquire a drink or whatever, and that stands out to you. Occasionally, Goal steps away to do business, but he's very good about losing his tails, so it's very hard for you to figure out where he's actually going. But given the six, you're able to have somebody track him down, and it turns out that he is brokering a deal with one of the drug dens run by the Red Sashes. But it's one of the lieutenants of the now leaderless Red Sashes that appears to be stepping out of bounds and trying to build a relationship with Martin Goal directly. So there's dissension in the ranks is basically what you're getting at among the Sashes.
This meeting only ever happens at a drug den?
It only ever happens at a drug den that is owned by the Sashes, yes.
Okay.
What other types of information do you want out of this besides that? Because it sounded like you wanted to know generally what his schedule is and what the clientele is at. With that roll of a 6, you get a little bit more out of this.
Man, I think that's a good spot.
Okay. Now, to answer going back to the Bowerstone question, Slade's question, given everything else that's been established so far, is it important or critical for you guys from the scores angle that we establish that relationship in some way, shape, or form? Is a wife important? Is a spouse important of any kind?
No, we were looking at different angles, but I think we'll get past that.
Okay, great. All right. So now that all that's been established, what do you guys want to do now? How do you want to jump into the score?
It might be a good idea to do it while they're having a meeting, and be like, "Hey, I'm a master at the Red Sashes. You're not supposed to be doing that." Just kind of not Red Sashes. Sorry, the Ruby and sword fighting, and just be like, "You're not supposed to be doing this."
Yeah, the lieutenant and Gaul have to go.
Yep. And then it looks like a deal gone bad, and then just stage it so it looks like that. And then when we go back to him, we tell him, and maybe that's even more of an incentive for him to be like, "Oh, cool, you did a good thing."
Okay, and so that's where you want to make this, you want to happen is when one of those deals is actually being accomplished, and not necessarily at the Leaky Bucket.
If we could, I'm reading chat.
It's okay.
Yeah, I would say yes at one of the drug dens during one of these meetings.
Why would you take credit?
Why not?
I don't know why we're doing this in chat. Let's just let's get the other to come at us.
It seems awfully dangerous knowing now that you are part of us, especially if we go and striking peace with them later on, and it's, oh yeah, by the way, anyone finds out it was us that killed him.
Also, I knew that Goal was the contact, right? Wasn't it Goal that was the contact for that meeting with her being traded?
Mm-hmm.
So OC immediately wants to go in and ask him questions first, and she would tell the group that before he's gonna die, but she wants to ask questions first and find out, about Nye, about the body that she thought was Nye.
I mean, the only concern I have is that it's legitimately us going in there, like Steam going in there and sorting it out. He's not really established as much.
he could also scout ahead. This Red Sashes guy might know who I am, so I'm probably going to go in disguise. Incognito.
I am of the opinion that we should make this known, because this establishes that anybody that goes out of line in the Red Sash is going forward, especially when OC takes control. This is how they're dealt with. And it'll get back on the street that Gaul was taken out by us, though we won't have any type of heat or as much heat associated with it as far as the law enforcement's concerned. It's the street will know what happened.
If we spin it that way, that's more what I meant as far as covert. Like, we don't just go in off the street and kill this guy and come out. Like, I just meant like we go in covertly, and then within the sashes we leave something so they know that, like, you know.
Okay, I'm going to make a suggestion. Just given the amount of time that I think that the conversation that's going to happen between you and Gull is going to be, and you guys tell me if this makes sense, or if you want to play it out like that, play it out just linearly. I think the conversation that you're going to have, OC, with Gull is going to get interesting and intense. I think there's also going to be responses, and there's going to be like a change of circumstance or something that could have an effect for the Void. So I definitely want to have that conversation, and I want to give it its fullest opportunity. But given the time, maybe what we want to do is you guys commit the score. If you murder him, great. We'll deal with that conversation as a flashback next session. And that conversation, that we'll open up with that conversation, and that way you guys you get to have the full breadth of that conversation without it feeling like we're undergone to have that, the pressure, essentially.
Should we roll the fortune and then do it next week?
Right, exactly.
That's hard to do, though, because they're directly dealing with him, like meta, whatever. So that's going to get tangled up with us having a flashback and doing that, I think. Well,
so the one thing about that is, no, they're not going to be tangling with him next week, because we'll be off for Halloween next week.
Okay.
So they won't actually get an episode next Monday or Tuesday. Like, we're not gonna schedule one for Monday, as far as I know. And then because Rhino has the show on Sweetie's channel, but the final episode there, which would conflict for us. So we won't absolutely get an opportunity to Tuesday. So anytime that we're going to do it is going to happen after next week's Wednesday show. So that will have no direct bearing. They will have no direct bearing on that conversation or what happens to him.
What do you guys think?
Because they're actually in someplace else completely, and it is a perfect spot for him to actually die without it actually affecting them in any way, shape, or form.
What do you guys want to do?
I mean, I don't really care about going long. It's the rest of the group that
I don't mind going long.
I don't mind going long.
That's up to you guys, though.
Greg.
I know Greg is the only other family man at the table, so you good?
Oh, I'm perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
I'm
good.
ready to rock. I'm ready to kill.
Were you sleeping? Just
I was thinking about all that wine I had. And
drink.
I'm trying to
drink more.
I want to hear a drunk voice again, please. Oh no.
All right. Okay. So let me get this. So there's going to be some information gathering happening in free play as a conversation between Gull and OC disguised, and then subsequently will be the score.
I'm disguised going in. I'm not going to be disguised once we meet there, and then I'm going to let Steam do some of the talking as well.
Okay.
It's mostly going to be Steam.
So okay. All right. So set the scene for me, both of you, in how you're going to approach Gull for this conversation.
Well, you say he's meeting with a lieutenant of the Red Sashes to broker some type of outside drug negotiation or drug trafficking.
That's
business.
correct. Well, okay. So let me clarify this. So you guys are doing this before you actually commit is this the part of the score, or is this separate from the score?
The conversation with Gull is part of the score.
Oh,
we're going to ask questions first and then kill later.
Okay.
At the same time. Right now.
I've never done that
before. Essentially in the same scene.
Within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted because I
just want to get an answer about Nye, and then we can kill him.
All right. Excellent. No problem. Okay. So since this is a new score, let's talk about the type of score that it is, because this really isn't a social engagement. You're stepping into a hostile situation.
It would be deception or assassination.
It would be assassination.
Assassination.
We have our orders.
Okay. You have your orders. And so with assassination, it's the target, right? Okay, so the target is
Martin Gull.
Martin Gull. Sorry, this is actually an assault, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, whatever the damagey one is.
The damagey one.
Okay, so the point of attack. What is the point of attack for you guys?
The bar. Or the drug den, rather.
Okay, and what about loadout? So you got an assault. What's the loadout going to look like for you guys? Is there anything changing?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be in the fucking bomb outfit.
Okay. All right. So So refresh our memory about what Mr. Baum looks like.
I came prepared.
That was the whole episode, guys.
Okay, great. All right, moving on. Anybody else? Any other details or any other loadout changes?
No.
I would say disguise, but I just want to put a hood on so you can't see my face on the street. And then once we get in, so it's not really disguise. It's like a.
So you're obscuring you're obscuring your identity, but you're not really doing anything else besides that, right?
Yeah, she's gonna bring her sash and have a hood on, and then just probably her normal clothes.
Okay, great.
And her sword.
Great, perfect. So let's talk about the engagement roll. 1 for sure luck.
+1 for weaving the web.
Okay.
I'm going to give this a shot.
Do it.
1 for love.
Oh, fuck you. God damn it. Louise is not even here, man.
No, she's not, but
So we
I
have to
thought it
take
was a beautiful thing, and I thought that 1 for love.
I love Nye. We're gonna get her back. I'm gonna find out where she is.
I hate
No,
you.
I'm sorry. Look, you are attempting an assassination here.
Out of
A
love.
multiple individual. No, there is no love involved in this particular case.
Out of
Really
what?
loved you.
Out of
Dude.
greed.
Stop.
What emotion
No.
do you want, Johnny? What emotion are you looking
No.
for?
So
No.
I would say that there is an emotion of, or I would say that there is
Hard
a
with love right now.
focus and a drive behind you guys,
I think
because
OC's drive to get Nye back is paramount right now because she heard that we're going to see him specifically after getting that information.
okay, that's not the drive I was thinking of, but I'll say okay. So that's an additional 1, so that's 3. I think there's another drive for you guys, which is the murder of Martin Gull means the Eruvian and the Red Sash commitment plus, plus favor from his contact with the Crows, right? He made a huge offer to you guys in that respect. So I think that applies in your favor. That's a huge amount of motivation for you guys. Anything else?
Also, I think the fact that we're going to get in there and stop one of the Red Sash lieutenants, who's obviously going behind their back, it's going to show more favor for us. So maybe that's another driving force.
I mean, it's going to bring me closer to what I want, which is...
I can't take you fucking seriously with that mask on.
Good.
You're talking, but I can't look at you. I haven't looked at you the entire time.
Johnny was getting
I love
confused if I was in the mask or wasn't in the mask, so I got a fucking mask.
I'm putting
Fair
my
enough.
chat over your face.
Okay. Sure. I'll say that's another one. That's 5 dice. Anything else?
I don't know if OC's reputation or...
Not in drug dens. You trying to
Yeah,
say?
I'm wondering how her reputation would play
It's
into
not a
that.
it's not a whorehouse. It's a drug den.
I mean, he
hate
has a
drugs.
red sash.
I'm not a
essentially,
red sash.
With the sword.
It's
I don't
just
know
a
like the
Peruvian
significance.
Peruvian sword
Enjoy
fighting.
your stay.
None to any of the people that are here.
No, the specific sword though.
The red sash lieutenant that you would be attacking, who is running the drug den, would definitely have, that would have an effect on that particular person, absolutely. Because
I mean, he's gonna die too, so maybe we could startle him a little first.
right. So okay, we're gonna call that 6, and we're gonna call that the max on the positive side. Now, what's negative for you guys?
This fucking mask.
We've never been in there before, or most of us haven't.
Okay.
Like
sure.
knowing the layout and whatever.
Is that true though?
Love.
I will definitely use love as
What
a.
is
as
that?
a- Anyways,
that's good.
okay, so because you were walking into unknown situation, you're walking on basically unknown grounds. What else? Anything else?
I can't think.
There's a lot, guys. You guys aren't thinking hard enough.
If we're spotted and Bowerstone is a reputable person, like if people know who we are and they, there's other people there that maybe don't like us right now. The Red Sashes are still a little pissed, and so are the Crows. So like, you never know.
Okay, that's another good one. I like that.
I thought you were going in disguise.
Hood on.
Well, yep.
You don't have to look like an asshole to disguise yourself.
Yep.
All right. So I have one other one. I'm going to present it to the table, and you guys can tell me if this is a negative or not, and then based on that, we will go with 3 or 4. You're going up against 2 factions, both in weakened states, but you're going up against 2 factions in this particular case because from inference, from all the clues that you have, from all the facts that you have, that Murden is probably in charge of, or at least in some capacity, helping run the Crows. You are also dealing with, even though it's a faction that you all tend to associate with in some degree or another, but you are dealing with some, element of the Red Sashes. So there are 2 significant groups that appear to be coordinating that you are about to attack.
What tier are they?
So the Sashes are tier 2, and they're in a weakened state right now, just for your reference.
Mm-hmm.
Crows are even in weaker state, and I'm not even going to go into details on that because they're so weak.
So my question with that is, if we're tier 3, correct?
You're tier what?
Tier
3.
3. So essentially,
you are tier
those 2 together would equal our level. Would that make it a neutral?
Well,
as far as
I also
power play?
said that as a negative already. The fact that there's 2 factions and we don't know.
I just mean, could that be a
I
neutral?
thought that was
thing?
part of it too.
Well, so it's not about. So you're walking into an unknown setting. You're walking into an unknown situation, a building, right? That's different from if somebody escapes from this fight. I'm just going to put this out there and be very plain about it. If one individual escapes from this fight from either the Sashes or the Crows, you could be boned. It could bone everything that's going on for you guys. And I mean, it may not affect directly the relationship that you have with the Consulate General, for the Eruvians and his influence over the Sashes, but it's clear that you're dealing with somebody who is not necessarily 100% loyal to the Red Sashes and the Lieutenant. And then you've got the Crow factor as well, right? Because Murden is probably not, let's be honest, walking into the situation alone.
Okay, how about this? Can we do this? Can we make contact with the Eruvian general, tell him to send one of his trusted advisors into our care and have him witness what's happening, or her witness what's happening? Eliminate the Sashes from being a potential, we lose respect or however.
Well, we knew we were going into this.
He doesn't know that, though. He doesn't know that the Eruvians are involved with Gaul. If we inform him at the point of attack, we can't afford to tell him days ahead of time that we think this is going to happen. If we have him send somebody that he trusts to observe what's happening.
Okay, so this is the circumstance of an engagement role, and we're talking about the positives and negatives. The factor, whether it's a positive or negative, is different from you prepping for that particular circumstance. And so you can do that. I would make the suggestion to make this move a little bit faster, that you treat it as a flashback instead. If you need to set that up, roll it as a flashback, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's a way to just let's get to the action and just make it smoothly.
Okay. Yes, that sounds like 2 or 3.
Okay, so that sounds like it's a question of is that a factor? It's up to the table. Do we remove a third one based on that, or is it not something that you think is going to happen because your idea is to murder everybody?
My first point. Sorry.
I would say that it's not a factor because this isn't the first time we've done this with 2 crews, let alone 3 crews. This is almost run of the mill at this point.
Well, except that in the previous case of the 3 crews, you blew them all up.
Yeah, no, that's the same plan to murder everyone.
Can we do that again?
Right, but so if you're not doing that in this particular case, you're actually going to step into this. You're going to physically put yourself into this situation. Previously, you used Nye as a bomb. and you basically blew everybody up, right? So you
Okay.
weren't there.
Our faces weren't there. Our faces were very specifically public elsewhere.
Sure.
Right, and your ultimate intention is not necessarily just to murder everybody. There's actually two goals that you have out of this, right? One is that you want information from Gull, and two, he asked for his head.
Yeah, I want his head and the general and the lieutenant who is backstabbing.
Here's my argument why it shouldn't be a reduction. If the Eruvian general told us that he wants Gull's head, all the Eruvians and all the Sashes should know that. Why the hell are they talking to him to begin with instead of just killing him and taking his head?
Because you don't know why he wants Gull's head.
Right, but I mean, if he wants, yeah, but if he wants Gull's head, it would. I mean, the Sashes and the Eruvians should also want Gull's head.
I think it's more of a personal, like, maybe I don't like that guy, but I didn't tell anyone else, and now you're gonna go kill someone. He's gonna be like, they killed him. They killed our supplier. Like, he could turn on us.
Yeah, but we got the head. We got the head. Just say, don't worry about the other Eruvians that were killed. They were
right.
Whatever.
What Ginger's saying is actually, from a meta standpoint, is what's actually
us.
Right. It's not necessarily that he would be open about his desire for that death, because he might have to play a political game. Right. It might, but him personally, there might be a reason why he wants his head. Right. So it's a personal vendetta essentially versus a public display of, all out war. It's a Cold War in a lot of ways. So anyways, all right. So again, happy to remove it if you guys agree to it. Otherwise, it sounds like there's a couple for and a couple, or one for and one against. What does the rest of the table think?
I mean, I guess if he is keeping this a secret from the other Eruvians, from the rest of the Red Sashes, then yes, it would be an issue. If he's not keeping it a secret, then it would not be an issue.
It is not a secret. It is just not something that he publicly advertises, right? It's not something that he would talk about. The fact that you brought up Gull in the conversation isn't, that's what triggered him, and his response was personal, was not professional. So, okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's call that 3 dice then. So who wants to roll it?
Steam.
Yeah.
You're going to murder someone. Go in there. Get in there, lad.
Steam's headlining this. He's the sneaky person.
Oh, boy. Okay, was that a fortune roll?
Yes.
Number of dice 3.
3.
All ones.
Don't jinx it.
Swear to God, if that's the case, I would love it. 5. Okay, another decent roll. So, given all that, who wants to set the scene of what you find when you walk in the den?
You got this, Steam.
Are we going in guns blazing? What is the plan there?
I want to be as quiet as we can until we don't need to be, because having all these people see us go in and then he's dead, the cleaner the better.
So Johnny, what does this drug den look like? Is there like a guard outside the room, or are they just trying to keep it as low key as possible, where like no one knows they're here except for us and the drug addicts?
In Crowsfoot, it necessarily would be, to me, more of the kind of thing that would operate in the open, and funds would be passed towards the Bluecoats to just kind of walk on by. So that would be what I would be in my head. That's what the precedent would be for a Red Sashes drug den in Crowsfoot.
Okay, so likely no guards.
More than likely not. Any Bluecoats that we were walking on by would definitely be ignoring it unless there was an obvious example of trouble, and you would know that given how many times the Bluecoats might have frequented the Gallows Respite to shake you down for some extortion money.
Sure. So you
not
said,
that you paid it, but
right. You paid it with his life. OC, you said you wanted to go in quietly?
I think it would be better to, given that we don't know this general that we are doing the work for.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't trust him. She just wants something from him. So OC doesn't necessarily trust him that he's being honest about it. And like, it was just a coincidence that we also wanted to kill him. So like, how would we have done it if we didn't have his backing and his say so? We would have done it quietly, right? At least at first.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are they in a private room, Johnny? I assume we have eyes on this so that we can, appropriately approach this thing.
So when typically what your works would have told you is that when this interaction happens, when this deal or this transaction happens, the drug den tends to kick out all of the essentially the attendants, or sorry, the people that are finding themselves there, kicking them out on the street and obscuring the fact that Murd and Gull and the Crows are actually there.
Okay, so this would just be the participants of the meeting.
Oh, absolutely. It would be quiet inside.
Okay, cool. That's more or less what I wanted to know.
So when we go in, who do we see?
Do you enter from the front or the back? I'm just going to ask that question.
Nix enters from the front.
I believe we all know how Steam will enter.
So when you enter through the front, the door was supposed to be locked, so nobody was actually guarding the door. But given your fortune roll, the door was unlocked based on some minor red sash who was supposed to do his job and apparently failed. Apparently, their ability to follow orders and do the right thing is just they've gotten a little bit lax, given they have a lack of leadership. I wonder why. So when you enter, you hear some talking coming from a room towards the back of the establishment. That's not in the essentially the front area, which is like sort of like there's couches and pillows and sort of places where you can lounge and basically get high and just kind of lose yourself in whatever stupor or pleasure that you find yourself in. It's mostly dark in there. You don't see anybody in this room proper, but you hear a lot of voices going back, and there appears to be a heated argument. You hear one voice with an Eruvian accent arguing heatedly with a voice that you take to be Murd and Gull. And it is a heated argument over, the amount of payment for the drugs that the Eruvian has supplied, Gull and the Crows. And he mentions the Crows by name, and the Eruvian is like, I'm taking a lot of risks. Essentially, I'm doing so much to support you. The least you could do is make sure that we get paid on time, kind of a thing. And so this is happening, and there appears to be nobody paying attention to the room that you're currently in.
Who comes in with Nix through the front door?
OC would.
Bauer, whatever.
No, he's. You know who I am.
You're going with Steam.
Steve.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're both coming in the back door.
Coming in hot.
Perfect.
Always.
So
I'm going to set things up out the back. John, I'll message you what I'm setting up.
Why don't you just say it?
Remember way back when I made a gadget of a retractable...
Yep, absolutely.
I'm setting up an emergency escape onto one of the roofs.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that something that would have been on Nye when she got blown up?
Nope. She had no gadgets or anything.
Yeah, it's just a mask.
He was there to push a button.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying, guys. I'm just clarifying. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You've got an escape route.
So
when you use it, though, you're going to have to make a roll for it in some way.
Oh no!
Fine.
Should have made it a flashback. It would have worked a lot better for you.
Great.
I like to make a flashback.
No, let's go.
So
we're moving forward. What's going on, guys?
Nix is walking in the front door and headed towards this noise with OC, slightly behind him, I assume, or next to him.
Yep.
Next to, she's annoyed because she's in a drug den and she doesn't approve.
He walks into the room. Just opens the door and walks into the room.
At first, nobody notices because the argument is getting more and more heated.
Perfect. That's what Nix wants.
How many people are in there?
So as you walk into the room, it's actually pretty filled with people. It's sort of like a storage room area, and there's a door that leads off to the back towards the alley. Gull and the Eruvian that he's arguing with are sort of like in the center of, and there is about 5 other red sashes kind of standing behind the Eruvian that's doing the arguing, just kind of, really taking in the situation and looking incredibly intently at Mord and Gull, because they're really upset. They're taking a risk and they want money. And the Eruvian is very much making it clear. And Gull's crows are all just kind of leaning against the walls, just kind of, seated back, just kind of taking in the situation. And there's about 7 of them.
So
there's about 14 in the room.
So as no one notices, because the argument is heating up, Nyx walks in with OC right behind him through the door, and he says, "Oh, well, yes, this appears to be where I am supposed to be. I am here for a meeting." And he grabs a chair and spins it backwards and sits down on it. And in his hand is his blade that he's running through his fingers, and he says, "Gull." And he points to the clearly not Eruvian man standing in the room. "I have some questions for you that you would be wise to answer quite well, and you can just wait your turn. Miss?" And he motions for OC to ask questions.
Interrupting that conversation, all eyes turn to you as Gull kind of looks over to you, with a little bit of shock. And the Eruvian, immediately taking up the end of the situation, turns around and clocks one of the younger individuals standing behind him over the head and said, "Aziz!" And just gets really just angry. And the young boy, about 16, just kind of, gets shocked. But blades begin to start coming out. And Gold looks at you and then looks to OC and says, "I don't care who you are. You are interrupting a deal here."
OC is going to take her jacket off to reveal the sash and just very gently drape it off her shoulders and pull it up and wrap it around her hand.
And as soon as the blades start to leave the sheath, the dagger stops spinning and the pommel he points with the blade towards the Eruvian and says, "Do you recall the incident at your temple not a few days ago? I wouldn't."
And she's immediately going to say, "Lieutenant and Gull, you can stay. Everyone else, if you want to leave here with your lives," and motion to the door.
"Who the hell are you, sweetheart? Get her."
With that, when he says that, she's going to use her adept ability, and she can do this from out of range of standing and do it around his neck and choke him and try to get him to the ground.
Roll it.
Yep. What am I rolling? Skirmish?
I don't know. What action really applies to that? Because this seems like, this almost seems like a finesse roll because it's a very specific action, right? So,
close combat or to hold a position, brawl or wrestle. So I would argue it would be skirmish.
Right, but you're out of range of you're out of melee range, right? That's what you're implying, right? Is that you're stepping, you're far enough back from him, and you're taking your sash and you're kind of whipping it out.
Yeah, but it's to assault or hold a position. I'm holding my position and bringing him to me.
Okay, roll it. We'll call the position, or we'll call the circumstance. Given the engagement roll, the first one for you is going to be controlled. Okay. Because this is an unexpected circumstance for them, so they are not ready for a fight.
Okay.
The fact. You want to bring him to the ground?
I want everyone to see that I can take him down in less than 2 seconds. It's an intimidation, and it's a, So
it's subduing him, and then it's intimidation. Okay, let's call it standard as the effect then, unless anybody has any other ideas, because it seems like this is affecting multiple things.
So I'd like to use my thing and bump it up.
Use
from
your
the
positions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So go ahead and push that up to great. And now bonus die. Do you want to push yourself or Table Devil's Bargain?
I will push myself.
Okay.
Could I argue that he assisted me in putting that person in a closer position for me to sash them?
How did you put him in a closer position?
Did the guy move forward at all, or did he just say get him?
Goal said for his men to move in to get you.
Okay, then never mind. Because if he had stepped forward at all, that was for him to get him into my range.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. A 6. Okay, so cinematically describe what that actually looks like when the sash kind of wraps around his neck and you bring him to his knees.
Somewhat effortlessly, she literally just whips her hand around as he says that to me. She's not having it. Around his neck, like a dog. He's a dog in front of her now, and she's now just looking to the rest of them.
Okay, so you bring him to the ground, and when that happens, the other crows kind of step up for a second, and they all look down at him, taking in this situation, almost completely disregarding what's happening on that side of the room for a second. Very unprofessional, very unskilled, not a lot of experience, and they're like, holy shit. But it's at that moment that the blades from the Eruvians start to come out, and one of them throws a throwing dagger in your general direction, aimed at both you, aimed sort of between you and Nyx. And that blade kind of flies through, kind of catching you both off guard because it surprises you, and it thunks into the wall behind as you realize that one of the Eruvians is moving into range for Nyx and begins to take a swing and attack Nyx.
I don't like that at all. Now I got to kill some people.
This would be a good time.
To murder? I agree.
Yes.
This is Steam. What are you going to do?
The Eruvian ceases to exist, the lieutenant, as steam materializes and runs one of his blades across his throat. And then he will yell to everyone else, "Leave this room."
So one of the Eruvians is moving to attack Nyx, and you materialize and then murder the lieutenant, and then both of you disappear?
No. He steam materializes, runs his blade across the lieutenant, the one that's in charge, the one that was brokering the dishonorable deal with Martin Gall.
Okay.
Kills him, and then yells to his...
Okay, so you said
companion.
disappear in there somewhere, and I was...
Yeah. Oh, no, he just materializes and makes him cease to exist, is what I said.
Okay, fair enough.
You still have to roll the dodge, though, right, Mike?
Well, hold on just a second. There are two competing things happening here, and I agree that he needs to counter the attack in some way, shape, or form. But the question I have is, when Steam commits that, is it on the moment that the blade flies? Is it on the moment that the Eruvian is moving into attack, or is it at the moment when OC wraps her sash around Gull?
It would be as soon as the Eruvians commit. So if one of them turns and throws the knife, then he appears and kills the lieutenant.
Okay, great. So let's roll. Let's roll your skirmish on that. I don't think there's anything else that's more appropriate than that, right?
Well, my prowl.
Okay.
That's my backstab. So
okay, we'll go ahead and do that then.
Okay, risky, controlled, risky. I would guess.
Situation. It's controlled based on the engagement roll, and the argument that OC just brought up is also another reason why it would be controlled at this point.
Okay, effect. Limited, standard, great.
I would argue that it has the potential for being great.
Okay. Bonus dice. I get +1 for appearing where it didn't think anybody was there, I would guess.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to go ahead and push myself with this one, kids.
Ooh. I wonder why.
What's your stress level at?
It's right around
Come on.
somewhere. No, it's at 0 because I already got the trauma from my ascension. During my downtime action, my screaming and that happened.
He was going to narratively explain it later as far as the actual...
Yeah, well, he was going to explain the effect, but I didn't realize it was actually the trauma. That was actually when you took the trauma. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, go ahead.
He's dead.
That's great. No, it's of course he's dead.
Shit, dude.
Wow.
What is the effect on the rest of the room?
OC's aroused.
Okay, what is the effect on everybody else in the room besides OC?
No, everyone's aroused.
Okay, what is the effect on everybody else besides the PCs in the party?
Whatever you tell us.
You crit, so no, he critted, so he gets to say whatever he wants.
I want Steam to tell us what's happening here, because this, I mean, to succeed would have been his death and had some effect on the Eruvians. 2 6s is a crit. I could come up with some really awesome stuff. With 3 6s, I want you to take control of this situation and tell us what the fuck's going on here.
Okay. Steam materializes, and with the razor edge of his honed blade, he literally severs the head from the lieutenant as he's mid-order. He grabs hold of the tousled hair on the top of the Eruvian's head, lifts the head up at the entire room, his friends included. He points to it with the knife, dripping with the blood of the man that's still lips moving, eyes moving, as cleanly as the blade has gone through the head. And he points and looks at the Eruvians first.
This is what dishonor looks like.
And he looks over at the crows and he says,
This is the man that was dealing with the old one. This is the strength. This is what you support. Do you want to end up like this?
and he drops the head.
Or do you prefer a better way?
All right.
And then he turns to Gaul.
And what happens with the Eruvians and the crows? You get to set the scene here. That's one hell of a role. You get to set the rest of the scene. And what is the situation for everybody else in the room?
He turns and looks at OC. He turns and looks at Nyx. He turns and looks at the rest of them. All the assembled masses of thugs. And he says one word.
Kneel.
And they do.
Okay. As everybody is looking around, as the players, you can narrate exactly what you guys decide to do with this. When Steam says that to everybody else, though, in the room, the Eruvian that was in mid-attack didn't even get remotely close to Nyx before this happened, catching him off guard, catching him mid-stride. And when Steam says kneel, he immediately just does. And the rest of the Eruvians follow suit. Now, in Eruvian folklore, there are people who exhibit this behavior, and they are revered, and they are to be feared. And you have just represented the living embodiment of the boogeyman for them. The crows, on the other hand, they do so reluctantly, but realize that they have no way of surviving this unless they do exactly what you say. And Gull is he's looking at the situation as he's kind of like on his knees being, put into submission by OC, and he's yelling at them to get up and fight, but none of them are listening. As they are just reluctantly kneeling and removing their hands from their blades or placing their blades on the ground if it's in their hands. And for a second, all eyes are on Steam. All right, what's happening next, guys?
Now, Mr. Gall.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
About nigh.
We can end it there. If you want to.
Yep.
Because that's going into her conversation.
Do you want to end the episode there?
Does it make sense to just finish it real quick? We've already gone over enough.
Finish it. Yeah, we can totally finish it because we're running long, but we're here. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
She's going to, because it's pretty much a chokehold when I do that because it tightens around.
Well,
So
he's struggling at trying to vocalize. So that's what you're hearing is guttural. Get up, But he's just not able to really speak.
She's going to take her sword out to show all of the red sashes and lean it and just put it on Nyx's lap.
Okay.
Hold on to this for me. She'll lean in and just pull at just a little bit so he can answer my questions and get face to face with him.
On your knees?
No, just crouching down. Just
okay.
Gods don't kneel. She'll pull it out a little bit and say,
well played there. That was good.
You have someone of mine. Or you did.
What are you talking about?
Is this spirit that was in that body?
Body? Who? And awareness dawns on his face. You're talking about that girl that Keel wanted. Lizette, I think her name was.
Lizette. Okay. Where?
You recognize the name, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
because it's somebody from the Demmer sisters' household. Mm-hmm. Somebody that they were grooming.
Yeah, I heard that she took over and left. They told me that.
Yes. So, but it would be a name that you would know prior to that, actually, as somebody in the household. And as awareness dawns, and he lets out the most ridiculously lengthy amount of curses that you can come up with. I knew they'd lie to me. God, and just what?
The group.
Person.
The group that brought them. I heard there was a group of people that came to you, and then went straight to the sisters.
No, they delivered the girl to Keel.
I'm not talking about the girl. I don't care about the girl.
Was this the same group that failed to bring you that book?
His look of frustration with OC and anger, at being, and, frustration at the situation, turns to a little bit of shock as he looks over at Nyx and says, how do you know that?
I know a great many things. Answer the question.
Not all of them. Loosen this thing, damn it.
Answer the question and I will.
No. One of them was involved, yes.
So not the red sash and not the drug peddler, then the professor.
He looks at you again, a little bit of astonishment on how much you're feeding him in respect to information. And he looks hesitant to respond.
OC's going to backhand him while holding on to the sash.
Yes, it was Wolf. Damn it. He was supposed to take care of that. That bastard Merrick was supposed to bring me back that book. All right, I've answered your questions. Let me go.
All right. I have one more question, but you will stay there.
Get on with it.
She's going to unwrap her sash, wrap it around her arm, and take a cleave at his neck.
I'm not even going to have you roll it.
She's just going to cut his head off like he did.
Yep.
Go over, take her hood off, put it in a bag, take the lieutenant's head, put it in like a bag. Do you want to say anything to our friends, our new friends, Steve, before we go?
They're in shock and awe as this happens, by the way. They are taken back by the awe of Steam. Again, the Eruvians are believing that, the boogeyman is standing in front of them. They're their equivalent of the boogeyman. And when you get Goal to answer your questions and then cut his head off, they look at you as if you're somehow connected to the boogeyman.
Yeah, she's on fire right now, so it makes sense.
Right. It's
ruined another dress.
They are incredibly, just frightened, and almost they're beginning to back away, on their knees, kind of cowering a little bit, because you, again, the folklore, the story time, the story, bedtime stories that the children are told, you are the living embodiment of the things that they must fear as children. And so the crows also are taken aback and stunned, but they're more worried about their own lives now.
The last thing she'll actually say to them is, there's more change coming for the Sashes. Do well to remember this. This will be the last of the fighting. And then she'll turn to Steam.
Steam walks over beside OC, and not like a lover, not like a subordinate, he wraps his hand around her forearm like a warrior, like a comrade. He turns to the Eruvians, looks down at them and says, "Now you will walk with us. Walk for your honor." And he signals for them to fall in line.
Nyx stands, hands the blade back to OC, grabs the chair, puts it back where it was, and looks to the crows and says, "Everything goes smoother when you just do what I say." And he motions towards the door.
And that's where we're going to call scene.
Boom.
And that's where we're going to call the game.
Thanks for that crit, Steam. That was good. That was a good crit.
God damn, I was hoping for a little bit more of a fight, but that end result, that was beautiful.
We
wow.
are Shroud. You should.
Oh my God. That was
pretty well for Heat. That was pretty well contained. So far.
Yes and no, because Steam just got you and Steam some followers.
Mad rep too.
How are you going to fill the church for the gods?
You gotta take me.
Yeah,
It's like another Rooknik.
Oh my God! Wow, that was okay. So I'm going to make a suggestion that we do XP and stuff off screen since we've gone so long.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we might as well just hand it over to Mike at this point. But before I do that, I just want to say, wow, that was so good, guys. That was so good.
Yeah,
I'm glad
there's a lot of stuff that happened.
Thank you guys for staying late.
Yeah, thank you everybody. Just before we even start, wow, shit, guys, awesome. All right, Mike.
Yeah, you had me speechless at one point in the episode, then we had you speechless, and it worked out well. So we'll go first with Mr. Bowerstone himself. Slade, who are you? What are you doing here? And what did you think about tonight?
Tonight was absolutely fucking mental. My teammates never cease to amaze me with what they get up to. The game is fantastic. You can follow me on Twitch streamer weekdays, but, once again, guys, we're back. I love being here. Thank you so much.
Greg, if you can string together a sentence, another sentence, who are you, what are you doing here, and what did you think of tonight?
Oh, big bit 21502.
No, I'm Grimjack21502 on Twitch and Twitter. I had a great time. I love playing with these guys. I like it a lot more when I don't stutter, but that's part of it too. Johnny, thanks so much. I love playing. I love 3-6s. I'll see you next week.
Miss Ninja, who are you, what are you doing here, and what did you think of tonight?
I am Miss Ninja. You guys can come check me out playing video games. I play the Sunday game here and the game tonight. And I also play on Mondays on Hello Sweetie's channel. Tonight was nuts. I did not think, I was hoping Steam would just go in and kill everybody. And then the people are throwing knives. And where the fuck was Bowerstone? Was he on his grappling hook just waiting for the getaway with no enemies around? Like, what was he doing?
I was like, Steam, can you finish this through? But I literally typed that witty face through. I was like, fuck, just wait in the other way then. Yeah, just.
Yeah, we were coming in if it was, but.
He forgot me. He left me outside.
Technically, I could have brought you in, but 3-6s and that was over. So
yeah,
I picture Slade just waiting outside, like, guys, where's the entry? Guys, he's on the wrong building with the grappling.
Steam just grabs Bowerstone by like the back of the head and teleports, but he only teleports the mask, and it's now just Bowerstone in a gimp suit with no face.
In a gips.
I see Bowerstone just like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. That gif.
Oh man, you're gonna have a great city to rule, man.
Oh,
I think we
perfect.
need to run a one-shot at one point called The Misadventures of the Bower Bomb.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's like-
OC, where he puts the wrong suit on, and it's actually a gimp suit. And I'm like, what are you doing?
That one's mine. Last but not least, Johnny, who are you? What are you doing here? And what did you think of tonight?
I've already told you guys what I think of tonight. I'm so, I describe it every week on Thursday or Friday mornings. It's the 6 and 20 hangover. I've already got a hangover from this week. A lot of great stuff happened last night. Tonight, you guys, here's what I find interesting about tonight. You severely screwed over the Void without even really thinking about or understanding what it is that you did, and it wasn't intentional. You accomplished a lot that you wanted to do, but I don't know if you guys know, but last night he basically put contracts on everybody, and if he died, they were going to get executed regardless of the circumstance because he was going to assume that they were going to kill him.
High five.
So, guys, Valana's in chat, and it's just like, yeah, they're going to have some fun next week, in 2 weeks. It's going to be interesting for them. But it was amazing. Good job. Absolutely loved it. So I'm Johnny. I'm the GM for 6 and 20. We do this on 3 different channels, and tonight's the second of 3 nights. I'll see you guys tomorrow night on Speedies, and you can find all the details of how to find me in chat. Thank you guys so much.
Sweet deal, guys. I had an awesome time. I didn't expect. I literally had a throwaway downtime action to discover this dagger, and it blew up into an hour-long thing with so much exposition and so basically the dagger just set up the entirety of season 3. I think, and I think everyone in chat was like, "Oh no, we only have one more episode left. What are we gonna do with all that information?" Nyx now has a drinking problem and daddy issues. Which is interesting. We're going to see how that goes. I super had a good time. That was pretty awesome. The ending was amazing. We'll be back tomorrow for Havoc in the Hinterlands, my homebrew 5e game. We'll be back on Saturday for 12 straight hours in which Johnny is a sadist and is waking up at 6 a.m. his time to run a game. Greg here is running a game. Johnny's running a second game of Blades in the Dark on Saturday. And Will Jones from Encounter Roleplay is running some more Cthulhu. And it's going to be a spooky horror Halloween day. So that's going to be pretty awesome. Greg is running some Cthulhu, some Wild West Cthulhu, which we're all excited for and terrified. Miss Ginger is going to be playing in that one. So you'll see a bunch of guys playing in that one all day long. And that's for charity for Extra Life. And then on Sunday, we come back with our episode 2 of Simba Room, where you can find Miss Ginger Ninja there again. That's all I have to show you guys on. And for now, we'll go right to our friend Eric Vulgaris, who is currently playing Torchbearer, Keep on the Borderlands. So definitely go check him out, give him all your hot sticky love, and from all of us to you guys, bye-bye.